Hello, everybody.
Nope. Hello.
Good evening.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to a very special episode of the Extra Credits Book Club podcast. Very special because we have Fulltor with us.
Hello.
Welcome.
We read a very special book called Mind Bullet, Jeremy Robinson.
Very special.
Now, the obvious route was to have Fulltor discuss Chuck Tingle books. But those are too short. And, he knows them too well.
Yeah, that would be too easy. That'd be too easy.
So I think it was 5 books in front of you. Made you pick one. Picked this one.
Yep.
Did you make the right choice?
I think I did. I mean, I wasn't expecting the roller coaster, thrill ride that is Mind Bullet when I decided to read this one. So I was pretty pleased. I'm not a big action movie guy or anything like that, but this one really it did it for me. So I'm gonna have to rethink that.
I think you picked the right one too, because this book is so stupid.
It's so stupid, it took me 2/3 of the book to realize that it wasn't satirical.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and that makes sense too, because when you first get into it, it really reads like you're sitting in a movie theater, and it unfolds in a way that really makes you it gets in your face, right? And it really explodes off the page at you, and
Literally.
it gets you.
I
Yeah.
think one of my first notes for this whole book was, is this a joke? This book has to be a lark.
It seems that way at the beginning, doesn't it? I mean, it's so fantastic, right? It's the opening sequence.
It's so ridiculous.
It's something that would be a stretch for a James Bond movie or or even like a I don't know, any sort of modern action flick, right? It's beyond what you would expect.
Well, doesn't it start with him chasing somebody in a very cool car?
Yeah, it does.
And then he ends up on top of said car that's still very cool. And then he uses that car as a catapult to launch himself in.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So but that's the beauty of it, right? So he prepares himself, but he does it all in a way that's really kind of nonchalant, right? Like he's done this before, of course. And so he's very matter of fact about it, but he gets on top of the speeding car that's going over a bridge and leaps over the target car that's filled with, some sort of he's a bad guy, right? Because this is what he does. He only assassinates bad guys, right? Because he's got to be likable. And so,
Right.
zooming over the car, looks down into a limousine that contains a hot tub, speeding down the
Of
highway,
course.
filled with young girls, and one guy who's, obviously shouldn't be in a hot tub full of young girls, right? And so that's the
He's
but it
gotta
really
go.
paints a picture, right? I mean, I thought it was beautiful.
What
Yeah,
really
you just
painted
know
the
it's
picture
gonna
for
be this
me
book.
was the fact that he was blaring Bon Jovi on the radio or whatever. Like, the stuff that this guy does, I'm like, this was cool like 20 years ago, you fucking nerd.
Yeah. Yeah. And but it really it made me think that they really picked out the soundtrack for the movie, right? I mean, the songs that went along with it, but they're spot on, right? They're spot on. Especially, when he talks about how his favorite song, he and the main woman in the story, among the many, She
There's only
they
women characters other than the main character.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But they asked what the favorite song is, and it's Paper Planes by MIA. And so
Right.
that's the era that we're shooting
I
for here.
couldn't
Mhm.
believe it. I was like, get real. Get
Yeah.
real. That's the song that you pick? Come on.
Yeah, I was surprised and kind of, not surprised at the same. It fit. It
Yeah.
fit
It
perfectly,
does.
I
I
think.
feel like everybody has a specific memory associated with that song and, like, where it fits in their lives.
It's not good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Not
No.
a
it's not
good
good.
memory.
And it's
No.
not the favorite song by a long shot, but
Mm-mm.
someone who would choose that as their favorite song, that just it fits, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
fits.
Yeah. It's thematically appropriate.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
basically, like the main action sequence, or the to use a television trope, the opening gambit is just to establish how fucking cool Jonas is. He's
Mhm.
so cool. And
Yeah.
then, what does a cool guy do when he finishes a job? He goes to his dope ass house.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's where I realized, oh, this character is just Dr. Disrespect.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Dr. Disrespect wishes he was this character.
Yeah, it's
He's that
true.
cool. He's that cool.
Dr. Disrespect doesn't have a plucky AI partner
Yet.
Yep.
who. This is where I was like, you have to stop. Please stop this. Is when the AI, he has like his own personal Alexa that he calls Bubbles for some
Yeah.
reason. And it has a southern accent for some reason. And it's got an attitude that is so cringe. Like its attitude is just so, oh, please don't. You
Yeah.
didn't have to make that joke.
And that's the other thing, right? Is that the jokes never stop and they keep on going. But if I were, a 14, 15-year-old boy again, that's
God.
the AI that I would choose, right? I mean, that's the perfect one.
And that's probably the most important part of this book, is that if I was 14 and 15, this would be the greatest book I've ever read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it reads
Absolutely.
like a 14 or 15-year-old wrote it.
And it's crazy because all of the Goodreads reviews are by, like, women older than me and, like, some, like, boomer-aged men. But, like, it was so confusing to read all these reviews from, like, I don't even know. They're just like, "Yes, he just knocked it out of the park again. Jeremy, go." It's like, why are you reading this?
Wow.
That blows my mind.
Yeah,
I
I never would
know.
have thought.
It's wild.
I was really curious, like, who's the audience for this book? I didn't really understand.
Is it
But
just
then
like,
I found myself enjoying it, and then maybe that's what it maybe I'm in there.
You are the
I
audience.
wouldn't say I didn't enjoy it, because I enjoyed reading it.
Mhm.
There's so much that I'm like, oh god, yuck. Like, all of the references I could do without. There's so many references to pop culture in this book that it's excessive.
Yeah, every action has its pop culture reference so that you can you don't picture the character doing the thing, you picture the reference that it's doing, so it ends up totally detracting from, like, the action they're trying to create because it's just, like, one reference after the other, and it's just like a montage of other people doing things.
Yeah. Like,
Very
anytime
true.
he mentioned RoboCop, I'm like, well, now I'm just thinking about RoboCop, not you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the intent, though. I mean, if you can't come up with, if you
Oh,
can't
distract him.
paint the picture, then this should make me feel like I felt when I watched RoboCop. So there you go.
One of my notes, I forget where we are, because the chapters are so short
They are.
that they
Mhm.
all kind of like blend together. Like, I
Mhm.
think the first 10 chapters is him just hanging out in his dope house.
ordering Thai food.
Yeah, ordering Thai food.
In his
Walking around
infinity
in the
pool.
nude.
Yeah.
Walking around, and specifically buck naked.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Because the coolest guys only say buck naked.
Yeah.
True.
That's right. That's right.
But there was I made a note that I was like, the author spends way too much time on the internet, because internet culture and like meme culture is barfed all over this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true. Especially the fight scenes, right? Where the AI is playing music and flashing lights and the goat screaming noise that is added in there.
Yeah. Oh God.
Again, the narrator did a fantastic job. I really felt I was there for that. So
Yeah, it's like Vine culture almost.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. It really is.
And the one thing that made me go early on, it made me go, oh no, was how the main character, Jonas, planted a flag. And like, I will die on this hill, plant a flag. His love for the Avett brothers. I was like, not that, don't die on this hill, dude. Not this
I thought that
one.
was unusual because I'd never heard of the Avett brothers. And
It's
so
like
I did listen to some of their music and
it's a Kmart Mumford and Sons.
yeah, exactly. If
And
Mumford and Sons wasn't already Kmart.
Yeah, and a very specific niche of people like it. All men, all the worst. All the worst people I've ever met. Who have said they like the Avett Brothers. I'm immediately like, it was so bad to the point where the first thing that I think of when somebody tells me that's one of their favorite bands, I'm like, this conversation's done.
Yeah, I thought that was a really unusual choice for a guy who's supposed to be like a cool guy, right?
Yeah,
But I
the
guess if you're a
coolest guy.
cool guy and you wanted to show your sensitive side because you're trying to woo all the women, you would probably say that is, your fan.
Yeah, it's like action guys with like a sensitive side or spiritual fuckboys and like
Yeah.
no one else.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. The guys who pretend sensitivity so they can sleep with girls.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys. It totally makes sense.
Oh, babe, I love crying. It's so good. Okay, did you guys notice how weird it was, like, early on? And it only progressively gets weirder throughout the book, but early on I was like, he talks about his parents an awful lot.
Yeah.
Too much. Too much.
Like, you're a grown man. A cool
He
grown
talks
man.
about it every time something happens. He's like, "Oh, I wish mom and dad were here." Or he sees something nice. He's like, "Oh, mom would have loved to see that."
Yeah, absolutely. And it did feel very weird at first, but then I in his defense, I mean, he was supposed to have lost them fairly recently, right? And I mean, it
was
wasn't
like
that
3
long
years.
ago. Well, I mean,
recent.
both your parents die in a horrific car accident. I mean,
I'm over it.
Fiery RV crash off a ravine.
Okay, maybe I'm the sensitive one.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, I'm over it, man.
Wow. Wow. But yeah, but then, once you reach the end of the story, you realize that it's not just about him. It's about that whole relationship and everything.
I mean, by the end of the
Mhm.
story, we realize he's got kind of a borderline not okay relationship with his parents. The way that they, like, through his flashbacks, I'm like, stop touching each other like this, you creeps.
It was a little unusual, and I thought I thought it was too focused on the story, right? It didn't really give us a lot of like his relationship with his parents other than their training, right? Because they, of course, had to hand down their world-class assassin skills to their child, as one does, and it's. I mean, it did feel really weird, but yeah.
And there's also
But in his defense,
knowing the revelation at the end that we'll get to eventually, instead of just teasing it.
Mhm.
The revelation at the end made me go, okay, so then why are they killing people?
That's
Why
true.
did they become assassins?
That's true. Yeah, that's a good question.
Sometimes you just need a career change. Sometimes things get stale. You gotta like
Yeah, good point. I mean,
spice it up.
their old job kind of got filled up, or they
Mhm.
were let go.
Yep.
But I mean, to be fair, his only relationship ever with anybody was with his parents. So I guess if he's gonna lament
that's a good point.
anything, like he had
Good
two
point.
humans that he talked to his whole life, and then both those people are no longer there, and then all he has is an AI. And he's growing increasingly depressed. And
But
then
depression
a
is cool.
Thai food delivery girl shows up to his house and changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who apparently Bubbles like manufactured this specific Thai food delivery girl to turn up because she's like exactly Jonas's type.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he kind of gets
course.
irritated by it, but then he's like, "Yeah, but let me look at her."
Yeah. She basically like drops off the Thai food and they like start eating it together. And then
Yeah.
Bubbles over the sound system in the house is like, everyone say their favorite color on 3. 1, 2, 3, go. And they like turns out they have all the same interests. Like orange is their favorite color, so they're both soulmates immediately because of that. They love paper planes and they love The Thing.
That's
Oh
right.
So
yeah,
That's
the
right.
thing.
Not the
yeah.
new one, the original one.
Yeah. And that's really like that's all you need when choosing a partner. 3 things in common.
Never
It felt
in my life.
it felt very junior high, spin the bottle type of deal, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it
Mhm.
was really
Also,
weird.
like never in my life have I ever had to make the distinction between the old thing or the new thing. Everybody
Yeah.
knows
I
the
didn't
new
even know
one
there was a new
sucks.
thing.
They remade the first one, or they remade the one with Kurt Russell in it, but worse.
Gross.
Oh. Yeah, most people don't know the history of the thing. It's true.
I learned something today.
But like they chit chat for a while, and the whole time Jonas is like, "Damn, she's hot. It's a shame I'll have to kill her." I'm like, why? Why? You can just tell her to leave.
No, because then she would
She's
know.
seen my face.
She's seen his face. She's seen his sweet mansion. I mean, he's exposed
Yeah, but
at that point.
as far as she's concerned, he's just some rich douchebag in a house with an infinity pool.
Well, I
And
don't
also
think
he's buck naked.
it's not until she comes back after dropping off the food to rob him and then finds out that he has mind bullet capabilities
Oh right, because he
that
blows up
he
her gun.
decides. Yeah. Also, we haven't explained that he is a telekinetic assassin, and the way
Oh,
that he kills people is with his mind. He shoots what he likes to call mind bullets out of his brain and can kill people without leaving a trace. So that's why he's such a good assassin.
My
Yeah.
note is I made a note that says, "Oh, period. It's literally a mind bullet." Okay.
Literally a mind bullet.
Quite literally a mind
Mhm.
bullet. Yeah. I guess we should have led with that, right? Because it would. I think that forgives a lot of this guy's, overinflated ego because he literally can do this telekinetic assassin thing, and it does make him one of the best in the world. So
True.
I might
Just
have
gives him a big
a big head
headache.
after that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, but I would be the same way. I think.
Oh, same. If I could kill people with a thought, I would be living my like baddest and bougiest lifestyle as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But
Exactly.
at some point, and this is where it gets hazy because things started getting confusing. Because at some point between her coming back to rob him and him blowing up her gun with his mind bullet, ninjas
My
show
favorite
up.
thing to say.
Yeah, looking for the girl whose name we know is Maddie. And the way that the author or the audiobook performer announces everyone's names, it's like he's doing a voiceover for an action movie trailer.
Yep. Yep. I like that little touch. It made it feel like a Tarantino movie or something, right? Where,
Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah.
that makes me pumped up more than hearing a bush jockey.
Exactly. It was just over the top enough, I think. I think it
Yeah.
was a nice touch.
He read it perfectly.
Yeah.
There's this weird action scene that goes on where I think the author was kind of going for John Wick, but also sort of like Rambo with all of his traps, and like Home Alone to a degree.
Yeah. It was
Oh, is this the treehouse?
No, it's still
No,
at
it's when
his
the
house,
ninjas
but
show up.
Okay.
he does all these dumb tricks that disorient the ninjas, who are
Oh,
called
Yeah,
the
because-
like
okay.
screaming ninjas or something stupid like that.
Shrieking because they don't they break glass and shit with their voices, and don't they have these big sticks that like reverberate sound? I don't know.
No, that's true because they did their simultaneous shriek, right, to break the glass or whatever it was, but his glass is bulletproof glass, so it didn't work.
Right.
So
And I think Bubbles keeps like I don't remember what song or what sound. Oh, she keeps interrupting their shrieking with like Gangnam Style and Take My Breath Away,
yep.
which is very 2013 internet culture.
And this book came out this year.
Yeah.
I did check on that. I was like, when did this come out? I was like, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
last
All the
year, I guess.
references are like 10 years old at minimum.
Yeah. So how long
Yep.
has he been sitting on this book before he finally sent it off?
Well, I mean, looking at
Who knows?
his the anthology that he's working on producing in the back of the book, maybe this is a piece of a very large puzzle that he's, gotten, had to wait to release.
Yeah, it seems like this is one origin story amongst many that are all coming together Avenger style for like this one
Yep.
book coming out, I think at the end of the year or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right. Because you did mention that.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot. I think there's at least 15 books that are like culminating in these different like branches. And then there's just going to be like this one like Infinity War book. I could be wrong, but I think that's his plan.
Yeah,
Hey
that's
man,
what it
if you're
sounded
gonna
like to me.
steal from the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Or maybe he's hoping Disney will pick it up. Just got to give him enough
Yeah.
enough content.
Netflix will definitely pick it up for free.
True.
But he has this very dumb fight with the ninjas that doesn't last very long because he defeats them all very easy. Because he's the best and he's super cool.
Yeah. And trained in every fighting discipline ever
That's right.
that's ever happened.
Well, but keep in mind he does get almost fatally wounded during this fight.
True.
Right.
So it
He
wasn't
is-
too easy.
He is weak to being shot in the head. He did say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, his one weakness.
Yep. And also Maddie during that fight had to come in and clean up a few dudes with a
That's
shotgun.
right. That's right. His dead father's shotgun.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So he definitely the first few dudes, yeah, he took care of them quite easily. But then
There's one detail I really, really liked that made me laugh out loud, where like the ninjas who have come for Maddie because she robbed them of something that we don't know about, and Jonas are trying to like communicate back and forth, but they don't speak each other's language. So they're like using written pieces of paper to like hold up against the glass. But he goes to get like he's looking around for paper and he goes into his room and he's like he has this like diary next to his bed that he describes as being like a notebook he uses to write Dark Avett Brothers inspired poetry. I was like, stop it.
You better cut that out. That's not
Very,
good
like-
for you.
2004 live journal energy.
that's so good.
Avett Brothers poetry. If the author sat at his computer and like wrote that line and didn't go, that's stupid, then he really needs to have a hard, long look in the mirror.
No, I like to imagine he's deadly serious with every line in this book.
Yeah.
This guy loves the Avett brothers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then this is also where it gets really confusing. Suddenly he's having a dream sequence. Like as soon as the ninjas are all cleaned up and dead, he starts
Oh,
doing a dream
yeah.
sequence.
Well, he has a seizure, right? I think because he shoots too many mind bullets. Because his daily
right.
record before this fight was 5, and I think he's done more than 6 at this point. And then I think he gets knocked out, and then he's just dissociating, and he's like outside of his body, like looking down at his body.
Oh yeah.
And he sees Maddie trying to revive him, and he's just like a ghost. And then he sees this ninja coming through his yard that has like all these chains on him and shit. And he calls him like a spooky ninja, also a ghost. But this spooky ninja with all the chains can communicate to him while he's in this ghost form. And this ninja starts like sifting through all of his memories and then shows him a memory of the two of them together when they were like little kids. And then all of a sudden, Jonas is back in his body, and they're like, we got to get the hell out of here. And he gets to the garage, revealing his black Tesla Model S convertible. And he calls electric cars the perfect stealth vehicle. And that he loves convertibles because he loves ocean breezes and the sun on his neck. And then they get into a giant motorcycle chase. Like I think Maddie get in his Tesla, and Bubbles takes the wheel, and they start speeding down the highway. Yeah. And the ninjas are on ninja motorcycles because they're very brand forward. And then Ghost, the spooky ninja, is like in pursuit. And I do not know what happens during this chase. A lot of shit. Like, think Bubbles takes over the vehicle.
Yeah. Bubbles takes over the vehicle, and like the action that ensues during this scene is just unbelievable, right? So the sequence of events that causes the car to flip in the air while the ninja, the ghost ninja Ro, is riding his motorcycle underneath the car, and then they somehow grab the chain, or he grabs the chain from the car and gets hit by the door opening as it's flipping over his head, and he falls off his motorcycle because Bubbles controls everything, and they just buckle their seatbelts, and
coolest.
Pretty bizarre. I mean, I could picture how this would look, and it's got to be something that CGI would have a hard time handling, right?
Yeah. I totally forgot about the Tesla, and I remember going, yeah, of course he's got a Tesla. Because it is the coolest car.
Yeah. Well, he did say it wasn't as cool as the other car that he had. With the first one that he jumped off the roof of on the bridge when he assassinated the hot tub limousine guy.
Right.
And also his super cool house is in San Diego. And I remember him talking about San Diego as if it was like the lap of luxury. I'm like, have you ever been to San Diego? It's nice, but it's not that nice.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He was very keen on it for sure. But I don't know. Maybe in the hills of San Diego where I've never been. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe if you have an all glass house and an infinity pool, it is the lap of luxury.
Yeah,
the hills above San Diego are where an Indian casino
is. That's luxury.
Luxury.
It is a pretty nice casino. It doesn't smell like cigarette smoke on the inside. That is the mark of a great casino.
I'd have to smell it to believe it.
But like after their little Tesla chase, they get to Jonas is like, I know a place where we could stay. And it turns out to be like this 14-year-old like dream scenario of having this dope treehouse. And it's I'm like, are you kidding? Like a treehouse that has
Yeah,
all
but
the amenities of a mansion? Come
that's
on.
true. Not only that, but it's completely hidden. You wouldn't even know that it's there because,
right.
Right.
yeah, they when they first got there, Bubbles mentioned that the last person to be in there in that area was a hunter, but he didn't look up, so he didn't see the treehouse. He didn't know it was there. So
Right. So
they didn't. Nobody
high.
knew. Yeah.
Yeah.
How would she know?
She just knows stuff.
She knows everything, dude. It's the
Mhm.
AI. She's plugged into the internet, and the internet knows everything. Yeah. I'm sure they
Oh,
have the most sophisticated monitoring equipment out at that house.
yeah. I think somewhere in the process of the motorcycle chase and arriving at the treehouse, Jonas gets another memory pillaged by the spooky ninja, where we find out that he first mind bulleted a hunter as an
Right.
11-year-old. Or
Mhm.
no, he would have been way younger.
That's right.
It was like
Who accidentally shot his dog, whose name was Bubbles.
Yep.
And then
Right.
that's just a moment out of time. We never visited again. Just a little memory, and then we're back in driving down the highway listening to Paper Planes.
Yeah,
Yep.
and my note for the revelation that his childhood dog was called Bubbles. Also his AI is called Bubbles. My note that I wrote down for that was okay, question mark. Because okay. Thanks for
That's
that.
the thing. But yeah, that's a little, and that's where you start to really realize that there's more going on, right? That there's more to the situation.
A
Right.
very
it's
complex
It's
plot is
very
unfolding.
detailed.
That's right. It's too much of a coincidence for it to
The
just be
You could
pure
argue
coincidence.
that the plot is so complex in this that it's almost doesn't have one.
I don't know. You could say that. You could argue that, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to draw that conclusion.
Right.
I'm thinking that it's more. So I'm thinking that our author has really, set this up so significantly for his entire timeline of whatever universe he's trying to build. Right. That
Mhm.
it's all going to make sense. We just don't know it yet.
He's
Yeah.
a
That's right. That's right.
weaving
And this is only
a
a piece of it.
masterful web.
Yeah, a small piece. But yeah, I did that part was kind of, it was weird and out of place, right? But it showed a few different things that I think were important, right? His dad and mom, were monitoring him in the forest, even when he was by himself. He had a dog named Bubbles, of course, and then that was the first time that he killed a person, and I think that was the
Mhm.
most significant part of that story because
Yeah.
he didn't even realize what he'd done, but his dad was okay with it. His
And
dad showed up. And he's like,
his
"It's fine. Don't worry about it."
Yes.
his parents were like, "Hey, great job, Tyke.
Yeah, they're
You
like,
really
"Oh,
killed him."
that's right. That's right." It was a little bit of a like maybe they were a little bit proud because they were, seen him do his first work. But yeah, I thought that was a significant part, right? Before he came to and realized that, that was the first time he learned about his ability.
Mhm. His dad was like, "Some people deserve to die, son. Let's just
Yeah,
go home."
Yeah, forgot about that.
yeah,
There was
exactly.
also when he wakes up from this memory. There's a quote that I wrote down because it was so outrageous that this was written in a book. And it was him recalling something that his dad had told him. And it was I forget what it was specifically, but he said, "My father taught me that day that I only now just remember." I'm like, wait, this is a chicken and egg scenario. How do you remember something that you've only how do you remember something before you remember it?
Yeah, but that's again maybe leading us to the conclusion that he has a very significant gap in his memory, right? that he lost most of his childhood memories, and that he's just now trying to he's gaining them back through this out of body spirit walking scenario.
You raise a compelling
Mm-hmm.
point. That it is all part of Jeremy Robinson's master plan and not just kind of like lazy
Complex.
writing because he writes 4 books a month.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make that accusation. I mean, that's a lot of books, but
Almost too many. Can't write that many.
well,
Maybe he's got a factory line.
yeah, that could be true.
Oh, I also wrote down, because this bothered me, I said, how many times do you think we'll be reminded that Bubbles doesn't have feelings? Because it seemed like every page and a half, they were like, Bubbles was like, I don't have feelings, remember? Alright, we fucking get it, dude.
You're an AI.
Robot. Got it.
We have to
Cool. It's very cool.
maybe you really have to be reminded though, because if the way that they interact with each other, it's meant to be like a buddy comedy type deal, right? Where they're constantly ribbing each other,
I
and
think
you
that's
know
definitely
they're
what they were going for.
they're going back and forth, and so maybe you got to be reminded, or maybe he's just trying to remind himself, is like, okay, don't get too far, don't go too far with it because she's just an AI.
True.
But she constantly does. Like, how many times does Bubbles just, like, overtly intimate that she wants to have sex with him if she had a body? And I'm like, ugh! Cut it out! You're a fucking computer program, dude, you creep!
Yeah, that's right. But that's why he's got to have that constant reminder. Hold on, she doesn't have feelings, so it's okay to over sexualize her.
She's just joking! She doesn't have feelings! No one's suggesting anybody has sex with an electronic device, okay?
Oh, and that wasn't even the best. That wasn't even the best references to that.
Yeah, it gets worse as the story goes on.
It gets real weird in the end.
It really, yeah, it
It's
does.
so weird. But they're all sitting around in this treehouse, chit-chatting, and Maddie's like, oh, I don't know why those ninjas were after me. And he's like, are you sure you don't know? And she's like, okay, maybe I stole something from them. Okay, what was it? A thumb drive that I plugged into my computer. And they start, like, sifting through this thumb drive. And they crack the password. And I remember the password being ninjas for the number 4. Ninjas for life.
Yep, of course.
And someone throws a lampshade right on that and says that password is embarrassing. And I wrote in my notes, yeah, it is. That is an embarrassing password.
Yeah. And Bubbles is like, it's definitely a sex tape. And Maddie's like, there's no way it's a sex tape. And we find out that like the reason she stole something from them was because this like anonymous person gave her $5,000 to do it and gave her literally everything she would need to go steal it from them, like blueprints, timing, everything. So she just had to like basically show up, take it, and leave. And they decide she's telling the truth because Bubbles can like read her, like she's like also like a lie detector test and has gone through her social feeds. So clearly she's done her research because she looked at her Instagram account and was like, yeah, everything checks out about this girl. So she's either telling the truth or we will murder her via dropping her out of a treehouse at some point.
This is also when Jonas starts going to his like hot assassin message board.
Dark web.
To just like hang out.
What was it called? It was called
S-Chan.
S-Chan? Oh boy.
And
that really got me when he started talking about it. I said, oh, come on. This is, I understand suspension of disbelief for all the other content of this story, but that one really got me for some reason.
And he goes to the trouble of explaining that this message board is completely anonymous. But they have ways of like flagging government of like people from the alphabet soup of government branches. And I'm like, how?
Yeah, he really explains how they all play nice together, right? Because
Yeah.
because they don't want trouble from each other. Is kind of
Yeah.
what I took away from it.
And
So everybody's cool with it.
and he came up with like little nicknames for everybody because it's all anonymous, so they're all just like serial
Mhm.
codes. And he gave nicknames to everybody. And one guy is like one of his oldest friends that he calls Otto.
Yep.
And then Otto is like, "Hey man, watch your back out there. It's getting weird. Like I'm hearing some whispers and you got to watch your back." And I'm like, "Wait, if it's anonymous, how does Otto know who this guy is?"
Yeah. Well, because they were friends, and he was a friend of his parents, right? That he somehow
Yeah.
messaged, or they knew about him, or something like that. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of weird how they somehow knew each other and knew who they actually were. Right?
Yeah, like I can understand if they knew each other outside of the message board, but in the message board, everybody's just a serial number. So it's like, "Oh yeah, there's Jonas, number 754332." And it's like, "Come on." Like that was where I was like, "Hold on a minute.
Yeah, that's
You're not going to
also,
pull one over my eyes."
but that's also where he talked about the other John Wick scenario, right? Where the assassins can't hit another assassin unless there's a vote on the message
Right.
board, right?
Right.
So that was kind of a weird situation too, because if they're all assassins, why would they vote to assassinate another assassin? I didn't really quite get that, but
Well,
Mm-hmm.
when I heard that, when they said, "Oh, other assassins can't go after each other," I was like, "But they will.
yeah, yeah,
You've already earmarked it, bud."
yeah.
The fact
But
that you even brought it up.
yep, exactly. So, but that was the other John Wick thing, right? Because that happened
Yeah.
in I forget which movie that was, but the assassin becomes the target of all the assassins.
I think
Right?
it's the
So,
third one. He's hunted by everybody.
I think that's right.
But yeah, like almost as soon as he's done explaining that assassins can't go after each other, Otto's like, "By the way, they just put a contract out on your ass."
Yeah, like
Everybody.
immediately, helicopters inbound. That's like
Yeah.
right away.
And he decided to call the group of like redneck chuds that come after him in the helicopters the weekend warriors.
Yep.
Right.
And he says weekend warriors so much that I had to make a note saying, "Please stop saying weekend warriors."
I thought that was the first indicator that there were going to be a bunch of stupid names for groups in the book. I think, because it was the one that he gave him, right? So that was perfect. That was perfect.
Yeah.
Shrieking ninjas wasn't enough of an indicator.
Well, I thought that was. Got the impression that's how they were known in the community. That wasn't something that he just dreamed up.
Yeah, because I got the impression that like they called themselves the Shrieking Ninjas.
Right.
But
But maybe he did make it up actually, because they did the screaming thing, the shrieking, and so maybe he did actually come up with that. I don't know.
I think they did call themselves that, to be honest.
but that doesn't detract from the fact that Jonas is absolute dog shit at naming things.
Yeah,
He has
Yeah.
no imagination whatsoever.
that's true. That's true.
And
And he even
he-
takes other people's names for things.
Yeah.
Like he named his AI Bubbles, for God's sake.
Wait, but he didn't name his AI Bubbles.
That's
She
right.
came with the name, but he didn't change it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But Bubbles really wants a name change.
Yeah, but he kept giving her ultimatums. If you do this, I'll let you change your name or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if you do this or that, or
Yeah. Help me with this one last job.
yeah, if you keep me alive in the back of my Tesla.
Yeah. But there's like a $10 million bounty on Jonas, and like 18 cowboy assassins show up in helicopters, and he is like injured. Like, I don't think he's using his mind bullets at the moment because he's like
No, I
really
think he's
tired.
scared because
So
he
he
used
has
a bunch, and it made him go, made him short circuit.
out of his body. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
So
that's
he
right.
has a sword that belonged to his
Oh
mother
god.
called the Sword of Mars. A godlike weapon for godlike boys.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That was another thing, right? When you heard that story and it was I forget what the actual story was, but it's forged by gods and passed down
Yeah.
for wherever, and it's hidden in a secret compartment in his house, and his mom would wield it because it proved that anytime you carry the sword into battle, you can't die or whatever. It's like this immortal sword or whatever. And
Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, this is obviously a fairy tale that his mom told him, right?
Yeah.
It can't be true, but he's like deadly serious. Like, no, this is, that's the sword, and
Don't
that's
you
kind of
ever say that
where they
about my
ended his
mom's
picture.
sword.
That's where they end. It's like, okay, I guess you're immortal if you have the sword, and this book completely took a weird turn.
Yeah.
Not that mind bullets were indication enough of supernatural things going on. But, yeah, but I thought that was cool when he pulls out the sword and he gets ready to fight all these guys that are coming to get him. I thought that was a cool action sequence.
Yeah, and he dispatches of almost all of them very easy in a battle he describes as like yesterday's battle was set to difficult and today's battle was set to
Oh
easy.
my god.
And he just like slashes through all these cowboys and he keeps one alive. I think there's actually a few that are still alive and he's trying to figure out information about who sent them and who they're working for. But the guy he killed was actually the guy who was in charge, and all the other ones don't have a lot of information. So he's just like, well, bonjour, I don't even know where I am.
Yeah. Yeah, and he leaves the one guy alive so he can or he kills I think you're right. He left one guy alive, but then he kills several other people, but I don't think he went back to kill the other guy.
Right.
So he took care of all of them, but I guess nobody survived in the end, right? Because the whole place
No.
helicopter crashed on it, and yeah, the whole
Oh,
thing went up.
yeah. And the whole time, like, Jonas and Bubbles are running these, like, operations that they have dumb names for, like Demon Lights and Bug Hunt, and we
Oh
don't
my
really
God.
know what
Yeah,
any
yeah.
of them are.
Yes,
Well, I
yes,
know
yes.
Bug Hunt was the one where they played audio from Alien
Oh
Mm.
yeah,
to
yeah,
make
that's
him
right.
think that they were doing like they were somewhere else. But it was
Yep.
just like the sound of a pulse rifle, and I was like, okay, that doesn't sound like a real gun though.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And they were doing all the light tricks and everything. And
Right.
but yeah, the kicker was that they had rehearsed these and they came up with I think he said hundreds of different scenarios that they
So
could
dumb.
unleash.
But he's
Yeah.
so cool. He's so
Yeah,
cool
he's
to
so
think
cool.
of ahead like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like technically a more sophisticated version of the routines I've set up with my own robot friend Besto, where I'll just say intruder alert and she'll turn off all the lights, turn them all red, and then say it's time to meet the dragon of Dojima, bitch, and then start playing Yakuza fighting music. So it's
See?
like that, but way cooler.
The same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
I remember this part of the book distinctly because I was setting up Hopper Smelt. And that's
Nice.
what I was purely focusing on as he was talking about these redneck bug hunts. And I remember stopping and leaning back in my chair and going, what in the fuck is going on? Because, like, all of the action scenes, you're like, what? What are you... Huh?
Yeah, but
Like-
then at the climax though, Zeta shows up.
That's right.
At this
Oh,
thing.
right.
And
The-
so
The
that's when it
Iron
really-
Maiden.
The Iron Maiden. Yeah. So it really gets interesting then, right? Because this is where he starts to learn more about his past, and he
Yeah.
has the next memory, the next flashback,
We
which
learned
is
he's
probably
an
the most
X-Men.
important flashback, right? Yeah, that he goes back to wherever they were, but she shows up after all the weekend warriors are dead, right? And so
Mhm.
she's like almost the final portion or the final boss in this area. So
Mhm.
Right.
I thought that was
The way to
weird.
construct it, because
Yeah.
every action scene is like the level and then the final boss.
Yeah, it kind of did end up being like that. But I really liked the flashback, right? So you go to the flashback, and then we get a reveal of so much more, right? So he's in part of this school or whatever, or this I picture like an orphanage or something, and it's supposed to be in Russia, right? Which
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
is weird for his roots too. And then
Mhm.
they escape. Uh, so Zeta, they're friends apparently, and they escape the house and go into the sewers, which he describes as being warm, so he's like comfortable there, which was gross. But
Yeah.
he goes down in there, and then they find a bunch of rats, and then she's like, "No, target practice," and so that was bizarre.
Yeah. He learned that he could just like rats his mind. He could
Yeah,
just squish
just crush them. Yeah, unreal. So that was, but it was cool because you get to learn that there's more than just him, and so this whole telekinetic assassin thing isn't just unique to him, but there's more to the story.
Mhm.
and they keep calling him Gamma.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Who's that?" And they're like, "It's you, dummy." Oh. So wait, you're saying my name's not Jonas? And they're like, "Yeah, man. Also, your parents aren't your parents." And he's like, "What? That can't be true."
Yep, exactly. But that was the thing that really threw me off there is like, wait a minute. So his parents aren't his parents. So did they kidnap him? They seemed like decent people aside from the being, international assassins. But,
Mhm.
they treated him well and encouraged his killing people. But,
Right.
so what
Well, yeah,
happened with his parents and what's the deal? And yeah, so I thought
they
that
kind
was,
of muddied the waters in explaining it because they were like, "You have real parents, and your parents that you had are not your real parents. Your real parents are your real
yeah,
parents." And I was like, "Huh? Wait,
yeah, yeah.
are his dead parents not the real ones, or are they the real ones? Was he taken from them, or what? Start over from the beginning. What do you mean?"
Yeah, and they don't. You never really find out till the very end.
Yep, yep. Yeah, that's where I started to get really curious about kind of what his origins were
Mhm.
because
And
it
it
didn't make any
just
sense.
went in a direction I don't think any of us saw coming.
Nope, and
In
I didn't like it.
Not in a good way.
Yep, yep. Yeah, but when he wakes back up from that and then and then finds out this was a cool part for that I thought. Then he actually starts to fight Zeta for real, and she's way more powerful than him.
Yeah.
But he
Mhm.
knows that by their alphabet that she's supposed to be not as good as him, and he even mentions that that when he went back in the memory, he felt that she was a lesser rank than he was, but she was in charge because he's
Mhm.
submissive. So. But when they start fighting, you start to see that okay, like he might be Mind Bullet, but he's not that cool. He's not that good.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
definitely
she's
kind of
like
mops him
immune
up.
to them. Yeah.
Yep,
But yeah,
yep.
and she's immune to them, which I feel like is a huge misfortune for Jonas because he's a one-trick pony. And if you're
Mhm.
resistant to mind bullets, then
Yeah.
all right, I guess I'll go home.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're Jonas, imagine what it's like to be humbled like that. I mean,
Yeah.
devastating.
The first time in his life, really. Like, he knows every fighting style that's ever existed, but she's, like, way better than he is.
Yeah.
And I guess we find out that the night that he disappeared from the X-Men orphanage, the whole orphanage kind of fell apart and they all dispersed.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're like this family of like 24 kids run by this mysterious couple, Alpha and Beta, and they named all the kids the following letters of the Greek alphabet all the way to the end. So I had to like look up the letters and figure out the order everybody was in.
Also, when he realizes that she is a lower rank than him, or like supposedly weaker, and she absolutely takes him to court,
Yep.
he doesn't go like, "Oh my god, I'm not as strong as I should be." He's like, must be way stronger, but it must be locked in those memories I don't have. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's right. So
that's
maybe he
not what I
wasn't
would
humbled so
imagine.
much, but yeah.
Yeah, I want that level of confidence. Like
Yeah,
this isn't a me problem. Like this is something is fucking with my ability to be more
Yeah.
powerful.
Jonas cannot imagine a world in where he is not the coolest, most dope person that has ever been.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean I'm not the best? Hold on a minute. Maybe I forgot my cue card somewhere because this shouldn't be happening.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But I am hazy on what happens after the Zeta fight.
Well, the treehouse, it becomes
remember
engulfed in
Him
flames.
crying like 3 different times.
Just one artful tear going down his face as he laments the destruction of his treehouse.
Oh god.
Like I think the explosion of the tree, like something with the treehouse, like setting ablaze, knocks him out, and then he wakes up, and he's like with this medic, and it's not looking good for him. And then a cowboy assassin shows up, and he syringes him through the eyeball with morphine.
That's true,
And
but don't forget when he finds his way out to the highway, he lays down, weakened and beaten down, and he reaches for a dandelion in the pavement that's growing out of the pavement, and that's when he cries.
right, of course.
That's when he sheds a tear because
Yeah.
but it gets crushed under the boot of the paramedics that's coming to save him.
Every time this
Just
author
so
tries
sad.
to do something like artistic, or like he's like really framing up that gorgeous cinema shot, and I'm like, this
Yeah.
is the lamest thing you've written so far. And you wrote a joke about Bon Jovi, dude.
Yeah,
It's so
that part
weird.
that part was really weird because he started to talk about how he could appreciate the earth and the things that it's brought forth, you know. Again, maybe a little
Right.
foreshadowing there,
Yeah.
but yeah. But yeah, you're right. Then the paramedics pull him out, and then he meets Heather, right? So he meets
Right.
Heather, and then
Mhm.
she's trying to get him, and they're saying it's not looking good, and the helicopter is going to take 30 minutes. The hospital's 30 minutes away. How are you going to get here? And then yeah, someone shows up a little bit earlier, and it's the cowboy guy, and
Right.
that was his way to show them because the other thing that was really bizarre, right, is when he gets in the ambulance and they're treating him and everything, he just spills his guts about everything. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, I just killed like 20 people in
Yeah.
the forest over there. They're like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, just wait till they pull the bodies out. You'll see. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. He just confesses everything. He's like, I
Yeah.
can kill people with my mind, by the way. And she's like, great. Can you just like lie down?
Yeah. It's so weird. And then he gets his opportunity to prove it, right? Because the guy shows up and he's like, that helicopter should have been 3 minutes. You said the hospital was 30 minutes away.
Right.
That's 30 minutes each way. Like, so yeah, they open the door. Or he even tells her he's door and see if he's wearing a cowboy hat.
Right. Yeah.
Of course. But then yeah, he takes him out.
Is this
Takes
when
him out.
he wakes up from the dream sequence? Is that when he wakes up like full mast? Like he's just chewed it up?
After this one, yeah.
Yeah.
So after that scenario where he kills the cowboy guy with a syringe of morphine to the eye,
Mhm.
and then he kind of passes out after that, and so he goes into another dream sequence where I don't think, if I remember correctly, that this dream sequence he didn't really cover a lot of information, but then he talks about how he felt like he was a caterpillar. Felt like a caterpillar in a chrysalis that was waking up,
Oh,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
and so
that's
he's in the
right.
hospital bed, and then yeah, so he's getting a sponge bath from a nurse, and he's got an erection, and
Yeah.
yeah, he wakes up
fully
and
locked up, like
comedy
pistons out.
ensues. Yeah, exactly.
And there's about, like, if it was a comedy skit, it would be way too long. Where you're like, boy, this joke didn't work in the first 15 seconds, man, and you're still going 3 minutes later.
The level of comedy that happens in that area when he's in that hospital room is just so over the top for what just happened, and he's just into it. the type of jokes that are going on are
Like
ridiculous.
the
I mean, come on.
level
Yeah.
of like the quantity of jokes is
Yeah.
up here, but the quality of the jokes is way down here.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, can we not do boner jokes? It's 2021.
Yep. Boner jokes. They got a bunch of shit jokes in there too.
Right.
Man,
There's
it
even
was rough.
yeah, I forgot because he goes and hides in the bathroom and he's like trying
Yep.
not to shit himself, but he has to anyway. And
Yep.
then they have this hour-long conversation about how, ooh, you really pooped in that toilet, didn't you? And he's like, well, I couldn't help it. I'm like,
Going back and
what
forth
is
about
going on?
Oh, I forget what she said. She said something like, or this is after the fight that happens there. But the banter between him and the nurse like just goes on and on. Especially when
Mm-hmm.
they're talking about the nuns, right? And so the nuns are coming and they find out that there's other people trying to kill him, or they just found out about where they were, right? And this is after, by the way, I should mention that the nurse tells him that Heather, the EMT, visits him every day about the same time, and so
Right.
there's a little bit of a potential love interest going on. We don't know, but then after they start to get all cozy with each other and start talking about it, they find out there's some nuns down the hallway, and these nuns are probably assassins. So they start coming up with names for him, right? And so he
Right.
can't think of a clever name for himself, but the nurse does.
Well, he tries. He's like, they're blasphenuns. And
Yeah.
she's like, nah, let's call them the Twisted Sisters.
Oh, that's what it was. I hated that one
Yeah.
even more.
What's worse, Weekend Warriors or Twisted Sisters?
Twisted Sisters for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
But
that was a good
Why-
sequence.
why note for that? Because then the nuns try and come in there, and he easily dispatches them because that's what he does. It really takes the stakes out of like every fight with someone who isn't an X-Men. Because he can't be killed by anybody. He's too good.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only that, but I mean, he was in a coma for a week and just
Yeah.
pops out of bed, takes a shit, and goes to town. On these ladies, right?
Right. But my note was for something as cool as assassin nuns, they're really doing the absolute most to not be cool at all. Because
nuns
they were
themselves,
not
you mean?
cool.
They don't
Yeah.
really do much.
Yeah, they just kind of turn up and then be killed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're just nuns with Uzis. And that was about it.
that's right. And they keep calling him like various like animal fucker names. Like I can't remember.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It was really weird. And I didn't write down any of the specific ones. And I
Yeah.
don't know why, but they were just very like
Juvenile?
irritating. Yeah.
But that was more just jokes, right? So he's
Right.
joking with the nun as he's
Right.
about to kill her, and they're like in this mortal fight, and yeah,
You keep saying the word joke.
it's intended as a joke.
Right. Speaking of jokes, I made a note of nothing says cool like a Stella got her groove back reference. Again, this book was written in 2021, and he's making a Stella got her groove back reference.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That was
Mm-hmm.
A movie that everyone who's reading this remembers.
man. I
Most of
remember
the
the
people-
references from back in the day. That was
Unfortunately, so do I.
everybody's reference, right? Everybody, Stella
Everybody.
got her groove back. That was the reference for like a year after that movie came out.
Yeah. That was like from late 90s into the early 2000s. Everybody's was Stella getting their groove back.
Yep, everything.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, absolutely right. I forgot about that reference though. That was
I think I blocked it out.
yeah.
I usually when I'm listening to the book, I'll take notes as I'm listening, but for that I had to slam the pause button. I cannot believe you just made a Stella got her groove back reference.
Oh man.
But this is when we get introduced to my favorite character.
Oh no. I have such mixed feelings about that.
It's
about that
so weird. It's such a weird choice.
Yeah, it really is.
But another one of the X-Men turns up.
Randomly too.
Yeah.
I mean,
he just kind of
because
turns up.
after the nuns, it's like you think, okay, everything's cool now. Then Maddie shows up,
Yeah.
because she's actually there too. So
In
we
an
got
RV.
yeah. So we got Maddie, we got Heather, we got the nurses still hanging there, and he gives the nurse a phone with Bubbles AI programmed on it and says, hey, if you ever need anything, just say my name in the phone or whatever. And so he's doing good all over the place, right?
Maddie's like, what about me?
Yeah,
I don't get a phone?
exactly. Yeah, she was all put off by it, but then he's like, "No, you're coming with me because you're the hot, attractive one."
Yeah, we're
So,
partners.
yeah, we're partners now.
And he tries to make out with her, and she's like, whoa, guy.
That's right. That's right. He gets all sensitive again for a moment.
Yeah,
Yeah. He
Probably
gets
talks about the Avett brothers.
right.
right, which I think makes the 5th Avett Brothers reference so
Yeah.
far.
Because they
There's
talk about it,
still
don't they, in the
more
hospital?
to come.
They talk about it in the hospital, and someone else, and I think at that point in the hospital, someone mentions the same song. I think it's called "Live and Die." And they knew that song, and they're like, "You mean that song?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's the one." And it's like, who knows that? I don't.
Yeah.
It's weird. It was weird.
Some people.
I don't know.
But we like, I don't know how he turns up, but this guy turns up. Jonas knows of him. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
I've heard of him. He's
He
the bush
clearly
jockey.
does. Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
he's
know-
like an established assassin in the assassin. He's like, they're like coworkers, but
Yeah. He's on
like not
S-Chain.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got a condition where people have trouble saying their R, which is a weird choice.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he turns up and he's like, this is the last time you're going to escape from my clutches. And
Yep.
then a good old-fashioned joke on the disabled, where he's like, did you say crutches? And he said, no, clutches. Oh, I see where the problem is. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I thought about when it was Ken Jeong's character from The Hangover. That's exactly who I pictured.
Yeah. Now that you say that, that's exactly
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah.
Same levels of chaotic energy.
Yeah, and then I felt like either it was me or the author being racist, and I felt awkward and uncomfortable.
Well, I don't know. Like, it was such a weird choice to have him do that and then have just a vaguely racist accent for him,
Yeah,
or like
was
speech
weird.
impediment that makes him sound like he's being racist.
yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I took it. I was like, this is a really unusual choice. For this.
Yeah, like
mean,
all his
but-
R and L sounds are replaced with W's.
It could
Yeah.
be worse. It could be the, was it the African guy from
Ambassador.
from Three Body Problem that the
Yeah.
narrator decided to go Jamaican,
Yeah, that
and it was
was
very
a choice
clearly-
that was
clearly a
made.
white guy doing the voice.
Oh boy, that's
And
really weird.
It was like you could feel it in his voice. He really wanted to say Bumba Clot. But he, it wasn't in there, so he had to abstain.
I admire the courage though, because when you look, so hear me out here. When you look at the postings for audiobook narrators, right? They say we need someone that can do these 4 or 5 accents, right? Or there's characters that maybe the character wasn't listed as being Jamaican, which is kind of weird, but but that's the thing. It's like, who does those things where they go in and they could do or attempt to do all those accents? I don't know. I think it's
Maybe it's a classic, like, lying on your resume. Like, oh, of
Yeah.
course I can do Irish.
or you weren't paying attention to the post and you're like, I got this, no problem. And then you start reading the book and you narrate halfway through it, and then you get to the point where the guy's got a Jamaican accent and you're like, oh shit, like what? I can't back out now.
Well, the thing was that it wasn't that he was Jamaican. He did a Jamaican accent, but the guy he was supposed to be doing the voice for was African.
Oh, okay.
He also
Okay, well then that's
On the entire other side of the fucking planet.
yeah.
that's a different category then.
He did a pretty
Pretty funny.
sus Japanese one as well, if I'm
Oh, yeah.
remembering correctly. There were a number of ambassador nationalities represented in that book, none of
Oh,
which
boy.
were good.
Yeah. But at this point, after Bush Jockey goes away,
Well, he kind of tells him a little bit more information before he leaves. He's like, your parents robbed you of a glorious wife. And then goes off and tells him about how his parents like were the ones who kidnapped him from the X-Men school, and that like Beta and Alpha were born in a lab, and
right. Yeah.
they were like all of the 24 X-Men children were meant to be like slaves under the power of like drug cartels or like nations, and Jonas's parents, the ones who raised him, like changed and fucked up everything the day that they took him.
Yep.
Right.
And then the FBI show up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
the FBI shows up then. That's true.
It just occurred to me that Bush Jockey also sounds like the guy from Princess Bride. Marriage is what brings us together.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. You're
I've had to
absolutely
give that speech at more than 3 weddings.
right.
Yeah, as a toast. I've been specifically asked by people having weddings more than 3 times. Just
Not
say that line.
That's bizarre.
Not that
Yeah,
long.
why me? No, it's and it's so awkward because it just ends. You just say a dweem within a dweem, and then that's the end.
Because then
And it's like skip to the end. The man and wife, like that's the end.
say man and wife. Man and wife.
Yeah. Like it doesn't end naturally or in a way that isn't awkward as fuck. So I just had to be like, thank you very much.
That's funny.
Maybe you should
That's
write
great.
more. No, I take it back. Don't do that. But yeah,
No, the awkward ending is perfect.
the FBI just kind of turn up.
Well, because the FBI, I mean, now it makes sense why the FBI and the government agencies, they monitor S-Chan, but they don't usually get involved, right? But now we understand why they're monitoring. So, but I think that's what probably, or I have deduced that's what's happened, right? Because Bush Jockey finds him, the nuns find him,
Right.
the FBI finds him, so somehow somebody leaked it on S-Chan that they knew where he's at. And so everybody's
Jonas is
zeroing
quickly
in,
becoming
right?
the most findable man.
Yeah. 10 million reasons. 10 million reasons.
Good point.
Yeah.
But there's a brief emphasis on the brief standoff between him and the FBI before they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I noticed that too, because all the FBI people get killed, right? Bush Jockey takes them all out.
Yeah.
And so they're all dead except for one. The one agent, the best agent, right? Agent Fast. And so they get together, and so he's like, look, I'm a bad guy, he's a bad guy, you're chasing the bad guys, but do you want to get killed by him or you want to go with us? And so she's like, all right, I'm in. Let's get in the RV and get out of here. Which was, yeah,
I'd rather
it was
do that
unusual.
than paperwork.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But then the coolest thing was, right, so Maddie, I believe it was Maddie was driving at the time, right? She backs the RV into the hospital. And so they're stuck. They're stuck in the hospital. And so then I think that's when she gives Bubbles control to get the RV unstuck and get the hell out of there.
Well, she thinks she's driving the whole time, and she thinks she's being like such a badass. And then she finds out after that Bubbles was actually driving the whole time. And she's like,
yeah, that's right. That's right. But they managed to get the RV unstuck. So at that point, and I think I remember this right, Bush Jockey goes for the final kill and ends up collapsing the building on top of himself. And so
Right.
then they get out of there.
Yeah, he goes to hit Jonas with a concrete slab, and then he's like, "Oh, you were just in a coma. Like, I don't want to hurt you." And so, like, then the RV comes busting through, and then like Fast is trying to arrest them while this is happening, so they like take her
They're going
captive.
after it.
But
Wow.
there's a quote, and I can't remember what it's in reference to, but it's a good example of how the entire book reads, where he says, "It doesn't take a pirate to uncover the treasure she's got buried on Vague Island."
Oh God. Yeah, that is the perfect sentence to encapsulate this whole book.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one.
But like he's like gathering his Mass Effect party. He just keeps collecting people.
Yeah.
Only women, though. Only
Yeah,
women.
only
Yeah.
women that are very attractive.
Girl bosses only.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then
Oh, man.
my note here, because they stop somewhere. Or they don't. I
Well,
don't
in the
know.
RV, there's a lot that happens. There's a lot that happens in the RV, and I'm not sure that
Yeah.
they stopped anywhere or they just kept on going to their final
Yeah,
destination.
but my note is, wait, who's having sex with who?
Yes, exactly. Because I had to reread that part several times, even tonight before we started talking about this. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't getting it wrong. But yes, the way that he wrote that, it appears as if Agent Fast has suddenly become
Yes.
infatuated with him and starts giving him a rubdown, right? Am I wrong
Yeah,
about that?
That's who I thought.
what
And I
was.
was like, hold on, is
Wait,
Fast
really?
having sex with him? And
Yeah,
then
that's what I thought.
and then
I reread it several times though.
after
I missed it entirely. It's like I just
was like,
knew
what
that
the hell? And then I
like
was like, oh no, it's Maddie. Okay.
Yeah.
That's weird. You can't keep using fucking she. You have 3 women in here now.
Exactly. Thank you.
But
Yeah,
I don't think
very
anything
difficult.
happens besides the fact that Maddie comes in. Okay, I think Maddie comes in, takes off her shirt,
Right.
and
Yes.
then gets in bed with Jonas and starts like giving him a massage.
Yeah.
And he like because he's had a hard day and he was just in a coma and his muscles really tight. But before she comes in, Heather comes into the room and they just have like a little heart to heart, I think.
Yeah,
And
that's
they're
right.
yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I've never had a friend before. You are now my best friend." And then Maddie shows up at the door and it's like it's her appointment now. So Heather leaves and then Maddie comes in,
Yeah.
partially disrobes and just like starts giving him a rub down.
Hey man, see, I'm really wondering if he wrote this book when he was a teenage boy. And that's why all the references are old, right? He's updated a few
Yeah.
things like having a Tesla Model S, right? But maybe that's when all this happened, when his favorite song was Paper Planes.
And there's also
Yeah.
speaking of the confusion that me and Fulltor had about who was getting naked with who. One of the things that drives me absolutely crazy about this, like it made my reading experience miserable, is that he never uses any kind of adverb or adjective. It's only he said, she said, he says,
Yeah, that's true.
she says. And I'm like, use another word. You can say he said sarcastically instead of he said in a sarcastic way. And I'm like, that's too many words.
Yeah, there's not a lot of hints about, how they are interacting. You're right. You're right about
Yeah. He'll say things like, "I said," loud, almost like shouting,
Almost like shouting.
in a shouting way.
that. Just shouting.
There is,
Yep.
like, I feel like shouting is binary. Either you are or you aren't.
Yeah.
There's no real, oh, that was almost shouting.
Almost wanting to shout. Yeah. But
And
yeah,
then
I was confused by that part because I think or when he talks about who's coming into the room, he tells Maddie, he's like, he addresses her as Agent Fast. He says, "Agent Fast, you're here to handcuff me to the bed," and then she comes in and That's when he
Oh,
mentions
that's
Maddie.
right.
And
Yeah.
she sits on the bed or whatever. But that's why I got confused, and I was like, "What?" And that was like right at the end of a chapter too, so I had to like go back
Right.
and forth. I'm like, "Wait a minute, who's rubbing him down? That can't be fast. They can't." Be.
Yeah. It was just like a fun flirty joke,
Yeah, but
but
this,
didn't do anything for the story. I just confused
exactly.
everyone.
The scene before that, Heather was in there in his bed with him. So it's like, are they just
Yeah.
all gonna take a turn? Like,
Well,
Yeah.
he is just the coolest. And
well, that's the thing.
he's
Yeah.
never physically described.
No.
He
But I
described his skin color and eye color, and like as his
yeah.
nationality or not nationality,
Right.
as his ethnicity. But that's about all I remember. You're right.
Because I just imagine him with like slightly overweight. He's got kind of like
The story would be so much better if that's the way it was.
kind of a patchy beard that he's really
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
make
yeah.
work, but it's just not happening.
Yep. No,
But, like-
I imagined him like, you know,
The coolest
ripped
guy.
action hero guy.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's what we were supposed to, but I decided to buck tradition and go, what if this like chubby slub is just collecting all these women?
I bought into it. Like that'd be great. Like a Seth Rogen type.
Yeah. At some point, for chapters 35, 36, and 37, I was completely lost. Because my notes are, at some point, I missed 35. Oh my god, more dreams. And I just don't know what's happening.
Is this before they get to Hood's
house?
place?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, this is all happening in the RV.
Yep.
Like, it's the heart-to-hearts. It's a dream sequence where he is like an assassin again, but he's
Oh, yeah,
invisible
right.
and he's going through some like corridors and planting explosives, and like the world's biggest explosion happens as a result. And then he wakes up and he just thinks that he was dreaming about it, and he's like, "Oh, that was a pretty weird dream."
Was this
And-
his I am become death, destroyer of worlds dream?
Not yet.
Isn't it?
No, not yet.
Oh.
That's later. This is literally just a dream he has for a few minutes about being like setting up explosives, and
It was
then
the explosion one, right? The huge
Yeah.
explosion. Yeah.
and
yeah.
he's like, I'm in, like, no one can see me. I'm invisible. I'm in my ghost state. I'm limitless here. And then he wakes up to Maddie and Heather singing Sweet Caroline. And he has a lot of pent up tension, I guess, because I wrote, I'm done hearing about pent up tension. And then they start telling jokes. Oh, this is when Bubbles starts making jokes about him fucking goats, I think, but fainting ones specifically, because you wouldn't need to drug them first.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I gotta go. I was just actively dissociated during that part.
That weird. It was their buddy comedy banter that took a weird, very strange turn.
It took one of those turns where someone who, you know, everybody has that friend in their group that can't read a room. So they tell a joke and everybody's like, what the fuck?
It's just so out of pocket that no one can relate anymore.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
and the vibe is really weird for like the next 10 minutes.
Yeah. Took the vibe out back and just shot it.
Truly. But I
Okay.
think he also is like, he's talking to Bubbles about the dream that he had about being a ghost assassin, and like the explode, and then ties it to like this explosion that happened in Beirut a while ago. And he thinks the conclusion of that conversation is that he thinks his parents were hypnotizing him as a child and making him forget like the bad things he did when he was like a child assassin / terrorist.
Right.
And then we arrive at the next destination.
Yeah.
And Bubbles is like, I took you to my house, the house where
Right.
I was made.
And one of my notes for this is, just in case you forgot how cool Jonas is, he knows all languages.
That's right. Bubbles does mention that he knows like, I don't know, 12 languages or something like. I forget what it was. 11 or 12,
It's
something like
a way too many number of languages.
Including Pig Latin.
that. Oh
Which
god,
is
the
not
Pig
a
Latin
language.
scene was.
He counts it as one, I bet.
That was infuriating.
I
Like
know.
when they talked about Pig Latin as is, they were surprised that he knew it being a man. Like it's only for girls or something. And I was blown away by that. I didn't
It was
understand.
so weird. And also using Pig Latin as like a code language to talk secretly. I'm like, everyone knows that. Come on.
I did. That was the point where I thought, okay, this book is just being silly. Now it's like now
It had-
now everything
like,
that
it had
everything that
to
I
have
took
been.
seriously, maybe I shouldn't have.
Okay, before we get into Hood's house,
Yeah.
I'd like to take a quick bathroom break. But I also want to bring up the fact that someone I think it was Maddie. No. Wait, no, that is when they're in the house. Okay, never mind. Let's take a break.
Okay.
Cool.
I'll put on some music for you guys and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. So don't go anywhere, okay? All right, all right.
I had to look at that part where he sees the dandelion in the pavement. It was everything I remembered it was.
Give us a little.
You want to hear it?
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. It's
Give us that audiobook reader. Experience.
All right. So this is after he escapes the house, right? And he somehow manages to hike his way away from the house to where he gets to the freeway. I crawl out onto the pavement, bathed in incoming headlights. Tires shriek, and I lie down on the hard, cool surface, listening to the crack and snap of burning wood. What I could remember of my childhood began and ended in that magical home. Now it's gone for good, replaced by the cold and dark realization that the home I lived in before that was a freaking nightmare. A tear rolls from my eye to the pavement as my cheek presses against it. Sorry, I whisper to Mom and Dad, and then I can't help but smile. See you soon. A dandelion comes into focus, growing up out of a crack in the pavement, resisting the crush of car tires, scorching summer heat, and the lack of soil. I reach for it, brushing its delicate yellow petals with my fingertip. Hey there, little guy. I admire its resolve. Boots rush up to me. Wait, I say, but I'm too late. The dandelion is crushed underfoot.
Tragic.
It's just
Tragic
so
stuff.
sad.
Oh,
Masterful.
that was so out of place when I read that part.
That seems to be the trend in this book, where it'll have like a bunch of like really cool shit just for the sake of cool shit, and then it's like, but let's bring it down. Let's have a little quiet time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
This artsy fartsy like American Beauty plastic bag.
Yeah. Which is probably the movie he watched right before writing this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they turn up to this guy Hood's house, who I don't know if they know before they show up if he's the creator of Bubbles, but he's supposed to be like this Elon Musk dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite detail about their journey to his house was that his entire driveway is expressed in a Fibonacci sequence.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Like I
Yeah.
anytime someone brings up, like if you talk to someone who's a fan of Tool and they're like, you know how smart Maynard is? He's a genius, all of whatever the fuck that album is. He's like, the whole album's a Fibonacci sequence, but for sound, dude. Like, okay, shut up.
Get out of my house.
Are you talking about Lateralis?
Probably.
Have we had this conversation before?
No, it was a friend I had in high school who was like, it's the whole album is the Fibonacci sequence. God, please say less.
That was a good detail though, because that lets you know that not only is he super ultra nerd, but he's like intelligent
He's
nerd,
genius.
right? He's learned.
He read the Da Vinci Code for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And he knows about Renaissance painting.
Yes.
Yes.
And bees.
Yes, exactly.
But they're greeted by this robot woman who has a dumb name that I don't remember.
Artigentia.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I think Jonas is like, well, that's a weird dumb name. And Artigentia is like, it's actually a portmanteau. And he's like, a what? And someone says, it's English. I thought you knew all languages, Mr. Know-It-All. It's English. Portmanteau. It means a combination of words or something. And I was like, stop! Portmanteau is not English. It's French.
Yeah. It's like saying Schadenfreude is an English word.
English, duh. Schadenfreude. But they get like this weird, bizarre, like carnival tour of his house. It's like a weird.
Yeah, it's got Funhouse vibes, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
you go into this section and you don't know what's going on, and then you go into,
Yeah, and I was like, one of my notes is, so much of what is in this book is stuff that the author saw in a clickbait article. Like,
That's true.
who the hell knows about Vanta black paint other than
I
someone
know,
who
right?
trolls the internet a lot? Like, it's the darkest pigment known to man. It's so black it absorbs all light. Isn't that cool? Yeah, I guess.
And that's
And
like the
it's-
main character of that whole sequence is Vanta Black Paint.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It's so
did not know
stupid.
how to even like mentally picture what happens when they're walking through his house. Like in my mind, it was just like Tron. Like they were just in this dark ass room with like purple LEDs on this walkway that lights up as they go along on it. And no one knows, like, they're just having to follow this path and they don't know if there's like statues or shit around them or obstacles in the way, or if it's a completely blank room, like with no furniture, but this path is just leading them on some like dumb
Yeah,
little obstacle course through the house.
it felt like one of those sequences in Scooby-Doo when the gang splits up and
Mhm.
Shaggy and Scooby are off by themselves and Shaggy's like, "Oh boy, Scoob, this place is
Yeah.
real weird."
Yeah, they like went through a planetarium. They went to
Yeah.
the super dark room, which seems like it went on forever. But yeah, that's what I pictured too. Is like they were going through it and they said, "Don't go off the path, right? Because then you'll ruin the paint. It's too expensive and we'll kill you or whatever. We'll get really upset."
Right.
And then and yeah, and they were being led around by the AI hologram, right? And then she goes away, right? And they have to figure out how to get out of that dark room by themselves.
And then the AI starts going through all of their profiles and is like, Maddie is the only one not being truthful about who she is, or like she's the
Right.
only one we genuinely know nothing about. And
And I
then
think
Jonas is like,
this is like the third time that we've been told that Maddie isn't entirely who she says she is.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the only time that it's brought up and everybody's like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "You guys have known. You've been known. Why are you only
that's right.
just now getting upset about it?"
Yeah, because there was because yeah, you're right. The first time was when she was at the deliver the food, right? And then
Yeah.
she starts to find out just a little bit more. They get in the car, or they in between his first house and the tree house. Then he learns some more when they eat breakfast, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
they get their eggs Benedict, and then at the treehouse he finds
Right.
out even more.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're right. So it is like 3 or 4 times they've done some big reveal about who she is.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we know.
Yeah, that was wild. But I don't remember how they got out of that room. I
Me
think they
either.
just found their way out. They ended up following Jonas, I remember, to go to the end of it, and they ended up making it to the end of it. But that's when they get into the room where they meet Hood, I think, and that's when stuff starts
Yeah.
to get revealed about Maddie.
They step into like a hollow room of some sort, and he's like, we step into this like other planet. And it's just like they're watching Earth from Spache. And
Yeah.
then Hood is like, look, there's like, wow, explosions. Aren't they beautiful? Or something like that. I
Yeah,
don't even know.
that was the whole planetarian thing that they kept going on about. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's when they start hearing from Hood, right? Because Hood starts talking
Right.
to them. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's like, Jonas,
weird.
were you there at these explosions that I'm showing to you? And Jonas is like, no, I was in Italy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Basically, the important thing is that we find out Hood was one of the 24,
Yeah.
and he says to um, Jonas, it's good to see you again, Gamma.
Yep.
And he's like wondering if he can trust Bubbles because she brought him there. He's
Yeah.
like, did she like orchestrate this with Hood to get me here?
That's right. Yeah, and then they start talking, right? Where, and I think that's when I forget. It might have been the AI start talking about Maddie, right? And so they
Yeah.
keep saying there's still something more, and then her and Hood connect, and then we get let in on their little secret. So
Mhm.
then it
Yeah.
starts to make sense. But then that's where I got a little confused, right? Because it seems like at that point, Bubbles should have been, cat's out of the bag. Of course, that's why I took you here, because he programmed me to do that and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But it didn't seem like he was totally comfortable with Bubbles. So I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, and like I was fully expecting them to be like, yes, I designed Bubbles specifically for you to bring you here eventually, but they just kind of like, it's like he didn't know how to resolve Bubbles bringing him there, so he just kind of chucked it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he does talk about how Bubbles did everything else intentionally, right?
Yeah.
How Bubbles got Maddie to his house the first time because it's Maddie, and all that was all pre-planned, and
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
that's how
revealed
they
that Maddie
reintroduced
is
themselves.
also an X-Men,
That's right.
Yeah.
but she has a dumb power where she can just like read minds.
Well, that was so when they talk about Hood's power, that was really bizarre. He technological empath, I think is what they called it, or
Yeah.
technology empath,
Like,
where he
yeah.
could feel what computers were thinking.
I'd
Which-
rather know what humans are thinking more than computers.
Yeah, true. If it's on a grading scale, like
Yeah.
actual telepathy, 8.0.
Yeah.
Computer telepathy, fucking 0.
Yeah, because he
Who
can't
cares?
control it. He just like feels the feeling. He's just
Yeah.
sensing bad vibes from machines all day long, and he
Oh.
can't tune it out.
He's
That
troubled by it too.
that computer
Mhm.
did not like that you installed Apex again, buddy. You got to get that off.
Yeah, the computer didn't like that. Computer's feelings.
Stop. Stop.
But that was when it also
game.
kind of it looked to me like the powers that were distributed amongst all the X-Men children were limited, right?
Yeah.
They kept having repeats of the same powers, but some of them were more powerful than others in that thing,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like the ghost guy and Jonas could both do this spirit walking thing. So they both had that power, but Jonas had other powers. And then, Maddie was some sort of empath, and then Hood was a technology empath, but Jonas also had some sort of, so it basically ended up being like everybody's got all these weird powers and they're all these X-Men kids, but Jonas has all those powers at the same time.
Yeah, weird.
It seemed
huh?
like, right?
He is the total package,
That's right. That's right.
which
The
is
most-
an industry term.
But yeah, that sequence was weird, right? Because then we basically get revealed everything, and then after they're done talking, what happens now? People found him again, right? So
Yeah.
the next battle ensues.
This is when I after the reveal, I made the note. What's the actual plot of this book?
No one knows.
I think it might just be a series of events.
Yeah, pretty much.
Things
I
that
think-
happen
I think
in
you're right.
sequence.
Well, I think it's
Yeah.
well, okay. I feel like I've been doing a lot of apologizing for the author tonight.
Wow. You don't owe him nothing, Fulltor.
But I'm going to continue to do it when I say this. But also, I think it's not only just a sequence of events, but I think it's also telling the story of Jonas's discovery of his origins.
True.
Listen, this guy,
Not
this
that I'm
guy got
justifying this.
this guy got the three of us to buy his book. We don't owe him
Yeah.
nothing. And if
Right.
anything, he
Yeah.
owes us an explanation.
True. But we do get some information in this sequence where we find out that Maddie and Joshua and Jonas were all besties at school, just like in
Mhm.
Harry Potter with Harry, Hermione, and Ron.
That's right.
And that Jonas has been low-key controlled by Alpha this whole time. And that's why he has these memory lapses. And Joshua's been working from behind the scenes with Maddie to try and get him out of this cycle of being controlled. So he sends Bubbles to Jonas to help him combat that. So anytime someone's trying to control Jonas, she emits some kind of like sound frequency to prevent
Oh,
it
yeah,
from
that's right.
happening. And it was happening like up to 20 times a day with someone trying to take control over Jonas's body to like make him execute explosion-based assassin business. until about 9 days ago when like the bounty came out on Jonas. And so Maddie's like, why don't I just step into your mind to help you remember? And then I think she goes into his brain and they start like sifting through his memories.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like little rivals, but they made out one time. And they keep talking about, one thing that I found very disturbing is like, how old is Jonas when he leaves the school? He can't be that old, a child, because he was raised from his parents when he was like, he wasn't like already a teenager, was he?
Couldn't have
Like,
been. I
so
didn't get that.
yeah. So Maddie keeps referring to like what we had, like, oh my God, the bond, the love we shared was so strong. Like, were they
Yeah,
8
you're right.
and just
You're
making
right.
out? Like, what's happening here?
Now it feels
And
kind
they
of
had like
creepy.
this whole profound love story as babbies. And
I don't know if he did the math. It could be that he just was like, this is something that should happen in this part of his life, where you connect with somebody profoundly, but he didn't really do the calculations in his head that he would have been 5 at the time.
It doesn't really give you an indication of the first or how old he is when he has his oldest memories with his family or with his parents, his fake parents. Those, I think the earliest memory that he has is the dog thing, right? But he had to be fairly old at that point because maybe he was like a young teenager.
I hope so.
Like he was like 8 or 10 with the dog.
Because like otherwise, it just reminds me of one of the sketches from Middleditch and Schwartz where they talk about like the 12-year-olds who were in love, like running away from the law, crossing state lines. And it was just like, I don't know.
Now I feel really awkward about this story, even more so.
Yeah, I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Okay.
And
could be worse. It could be Kingdom of the Wicked. Book is still there.
I'll never say that book title again.
Yeah, this was a good sequence for finding out all that information, right? So, but you also find out that Maddie is, or I guess we found out back in the RV, right, where Maddie is actually channeling with him. That's her strength, right? Her power is they're channeling through his memories and like sifting through his memories, and she can dig in with him. So
yeah, so she's like sifting through his memories with him, and she's like wearing this orange bikini while they're doing it. And she's like, yeah, like at least I know what you like now. And I was like, ugh, stop it.
Yeah.
Like, please,
he mentions it several times too. Like even before they're done doing it, she's like, she's still in the orange bikini.
Yeah, by the way, guys,
okay,
just in case you were wondering what Maddie's wearing right now.
We get it. You seem to be the only one who likes her, dude, so what the fuck do we care?
Yep.
But this is when we get the like chaos terror destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, because it gets but the impression that I got from it, I don't remember where it says this, but it starts talking about how this power is only unlocked because of specifically Maddie is there, right?
Right.
Because she's bringing it out of him. And it gave me a Matrix 4 moment where I was thinking about that, where they're supposed to be together, right? And now that they're back together, he's regaining all of his knowledge and his powers and everything.
Right.
So
I haven't
it's
seen
weird.
It, but I know.
Well, didn't mean to spoil it.
There's only one way for that story to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there really is. And they went that way. Pretty obviously.
Yeah, so he's basically like exploring these blocked memories. And he sees like an image of his mom. And that's who's telling him that he is like the son of the North Star.
Right.
This like embodied chaos. Like it felt very much like a campier version of like Ciri's prophecies from Witcher when she does her little like dissociative episodes where it's like the time of the White Frost, child of the Elder Blood. And like that is basically what is happening to Jonas right now.
Yeah, that's right. And it was
death.
It was very over the top. It was crazy, right?
Yeah.
This is where I made the note where I said I've had it up to here with these dream sequences. because there have been so many of them, and in almost every single one of them, I'm like, sorry, what's happening? Because he never goes, and then I fell asleep and had a very strange dream. It's always just like him in the middle of a conversation, and then all of a sudden, he's, I am become Death the Destroyer of Worlds.
That's
Yeah.
true. And it's I think it's because he was talking to Maddie, right? And they're like, "Okay, are you ready to, to go in?"
Yeah.
And they're just like chatting about it, and then they just start. It just goes off
Yeah, and I think he gets another dream sequence about now to be like about the day he was kidnapped. And he's like at the
on
beach
the beach.
Yeah.
Yep.
with
With
some woman, his grandma, but she's still really hot. She's beautiful. She's a beautiful woman. Just
Yeah.
so you know, my whole family is very hot.
Hey, Jonas,
Yeah.
can we not with your fucking hot parents, bro?
Well, not only is this where he talks about whose parents really are, and or his grandma lets him in on the.
No, that's
No, not
little
yet.
later.
Oh, wait on.
But he calls her a yaya
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
whole time.
yaya.
He's just like, I can't wait till be back at the beach with my
Yeah,
parents.
that's right.
Yaya.
Because this is the part where I got the impression that he killed her, that he killed Yaya when they were talking, because he talks about how he starts to use the supernatural powers on the beach and everything like that, and how there was some sort of frustration or
Oh.
something, and she dies, and he mentions that she dies, but I figured that was him doing it accidentally, but we don't find out till
Oh.
later.
Yeah. And then he's like, all of a sudden, he starts like astral project making out with Maddie. And he like wakes
That's
up and he's like making out with the air. And everyone's like,
what are you
Jonas,
doing?
Yeah,
that's
right.
It's
going on there,
it's
bud?
so weird. Like we go instead of having like this dream sequence where he's like, "Oh, this is the day where I was taken. Oh, I understand more about who I am and where I've been." It's instead he's like, "Hey, this is when I was taken as a child. Also, do you see how fucking banging my mom looks in that bikini?" And it's like, "Ew. Stop."
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The bikini references were weird,
They're excessive.
out of place.
And
Yeah.
they read like someone who's never seen a woman ever.
Yeah. You're
Like
right.
I feel like if this author went out into the beach and saw women in bikinis, he would do like the cartoon wolf thing where it's like, "Oh," just like pounding his hand on the
probably
desk
right.
and like, "Oh."
Probably right. But I mean, the whole book has been kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
Dude,
True.
just
It's
like
very
mysteriously
dude bro, like,
surrounded
down.
by women, and they're
Yeah.
all kind of jumping in bed with him.
The only other male characters he introduces are ones who are so like there's no possible way anyone could find them cool. Like they're either a total recluse who's never spoken to a woman in his life, or like this little dude who can't pronounce his R's and he's like, but
Yeah.
just so everyone knows, me, Jonas, coolest guy around compared
Yep.
to these other guys.
Yep, that's right.
The males that are existing in the same world as Jonas, they're to be killed by him. They are effeminate or undesirable,
Yep.
or his father.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Very, very few male characters. I mean, very few characters overall, but
Yeah.
There's a
but can we
lot,
talk?
but most of them are women.
Yeah, that's true. Can we talk about this next action sequence though? Because I went back and read through it again,
I
and
would
there's
love-
just some
I
there's
would
some
love
really
to talk
crazy
about
stuff.
this action sequence if I knew what happened in it.
I don't
but
know that anybody does, but
I just
I know
know-
of one thing that happens that I read back through again.
I know G-forces are involved. I know they just keep talking about G-forces, and I know we had to remind everybody how cool he is by saying, he's trained up to like 5Gs.
Well,
Like,
Yeah.
he can
and
handle it.
even before that though, even before they get in the VTOL,
Mhm.
before they get in that thing, so So after he wakes up and he's making out with the air and everything like that, right? They find out that the assassins found him again, and they're coming back. So there's more than one group of assassins that's coming to get them at this point again,
Yeah.
right? So they've got which they were called Judgment Day, right? So
Mhm.
the assassin group
Right.
called Judgment Day, and they're just a bunch of nerds that remotely try to kill everyone with the drones.
And
Yeah.
they all
And they've
sound like
unleashed a
Arnie.
field of they unleashed a field of drones on them. Yeah, and they all have a weird Schwarzenegger-esque accent that doesn't work really well.
Yeah.
So they're coming in, and then Bubbles handles a lot of that, but really it's more Hood is handling it because he's being empathic with the machines that they've brought, and he's
He's like,
trying to
"Come
take
on,
control
guys.
of them. Yeah,
Stop."
exactly. But the other group is literal Nazi assassins, a group of Nazis that
Oh
try
my
to break
god, I
in,
forgot about them.
and they trap them in the Vantablack room. And
Right.
so Jonas has to put on the Vantablack suit that has ridiculous looking footwear and, goggles and everything to go into the room so they can't see him, but he can see them. So it's a real
Right.
kind of Hall of Mirrors type setup where he goes in there. And then he gets in there, and this is the part that I still don't understand. So there's the Nazi guys, there's another telekinetic assassin that's there with them that he
Yeah.
hasn't been introduced yet, but he knows he's there. And then two guys appear out of thin air in the room with them when he's about
Yeah.
to try and kill the Nazis.
Right.
And it's some soldier-looking guy and a
Mhm.
cowboy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they're just there. They just show up there, and they decide to kill all the Nazis themselves before Jonas
Yeah.
can even get to them.
Yeah. And I remember writing a note with the Nazis that he gave them a name that was German for like shits in their own pants or something like stupid like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And I was like, ooh, very cool. But my note for the Nazis was, are we really doing look how lame white supremacists are? What a brave take.
That's exactly what it
Courageous.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it
Wow,
was.
he's so brave for
Yep.
taking such a hard stance.
Yeah, he
And
went
then
into detail about that.
He really
About
did.
how lame they are, yeah. And it's like,
Yep.
yeah, we know. All you had to do was say Nazi. We get it.
And then they just teleport out of the room. These two
Yeah.
random dudes, the cowboy and the guy who's described as the soldier. And then he comes face to face with Delta, the assassin next in line after him.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
And he's been sent to kill all of the 24. He's in a cult of one, worshiping at the altar of Alpha and Beta.
We forgot about the robot anime babe.
That's right now.
Yeah, that's when that happens.
Yeah, it's like right when he meets Delta, and then that interrupts their little standoff. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Because Delta uses the anime babes, right? So they're all coated in Vantablack, so you can't see them. And Hood made a point to say that there's very expensive or desirable statues or whatever he said. There's these statues in this room that you can't see with your normal eyes because they're covered in Vantablack like everything else. But then Delta, I think they was also some sort of telekinetic empath. These anime babes. He basically uses the anime babes to try and kill Jonas. And then Jonas
That's
has
right.
to do his work to destroy him.
It gets
Yeah.
so hinky though, because this guy that essentially turns the anime babes into soldiers for him. My note is, so did he kill him or did he just astral project away? What happened?
Oh,
Because-
Delta?
Yeah, that fight seems to have it started and then
Well,
I must have blacked out because I don't remember what happened.
Well, because it gets so ridiculous, right? So anime babes attack Jonas, and Jonas handles all of them and destroys all of them in a pile of dead anime robot babes or statues or whatever. And then they start having this mental battle where they're talking shit back and forth. talking about who's better, who's stronger, who's the better telekinetic assassin.
Wow.
And then as Delta's about to take out Jonas, because Jonas can't mind bullet him, he can't do anything. Then Jonas reveals and understands his real true power, and that he fully understands that he should be able to take out Delta without the pain of a mind bullet, without any effort, really.
That's
then-
right.
Then he does it.
Yeah. And it's not painful to shoot the mind bullets anymore. He just describes it as it's like taking an uncomfortable dump from his forehead.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Right. What
And
perfect
then
way to describe it.
Yeah. And then I think Delta gets a hold of Maddie and starts compressing her.
Yep, that's right.
And I think Maddie's looking at him and she's like, "You have to remember me." And that triggers his memory. She's like, "Oh my God, she's all that was good in the world and still is from this torrid romance we had as 8-year-olds." And then he remembers his entire relationship with her instantly.
Yep.
And then he astral projects himself out of his body and kills Delta. And he just basically splats him all over a wall.
Yeah.
And he's just like the vampires in True Blood, where he just like explodes.
Yeah.
Never did I imagine that the scene from Total Recall where that guy's stomach baby goes, "Quaid, remember."
That's the same vibe, totally.
Mhm.
Totally.
Remember.
He's like, "Maddie, you were the key to my power this whole time."
Yep. Oh, and then we got to talk about the interplay with Artigentia and Jonas, right?
Right.
So they have this adversarial relationship because Jonas is being a smartass to him. But then Hood realizes that Jonas being a smartass to Bubbles actually made Bubbles smarter and better. And he wanted the same thing for his AI because his AI wasn't as independent as Bubbles was. And so he's trying to get Jonas to like teach Artigentia how to be more of a smartass and more independent. And so he like gives her, they have this banter back and forth that's all weird. And so she doesn't like him at first. Artigenia, the female, obviously AI, doesn't like him at first, but then they start to gain a relationship before this whole thing is over. And she actually
Right.
helps out during the battle with the Nazis.
Right.
Boy,
It's
this
very
book
weird.
is stupid.
Oh,
But after he kills Delta,
hmm
that's when we're introduced to the X-Jet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Hood's very cool, very secret super jet.
Also
that they-
covered in Vanta Black.
Yeah, that they get into.
Naturally.
And it's like, I remember I read the same article about Phantom Black that this guy did. So I know that there's not that much of it in the world.
Clearly, yeah.
So
Well, I think
where's he
there's
getting
not
enough to cover an entire fucking plane in it?
Well, it's probably because people like Elon Musk have got it all. They took it all and put it all over their house and coated some room with it.
Good point.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that.
He has the entire supply.
Yeah. Artificial scarcity.
And my note for the plane that they described, because they go into great detail about this plane. My note is, very cool plane, bro.
That's all. It's the Tesla Model S of planes.
Yeah.
It's
very cool.
except even more secret with all the stealth technology angles.
Also,
Right.
I actually made a note about Jonas and Artigentia's back and forth,
Yeah.
and it was quote, "I can't believe this is a series of dialogue."
Yeah. It was like not even as good as his dialogue with Bubbles.
No, it was outrageous. I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah. It was so weird. It was so weird. But he also led on to where he wishes that Bubbles had a body too, to be an actual hologram.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Again, we're
Creepy.
encroaching into the weird
Yeah.
territory relationship with Bubbles and Jonas.
You're like, definitely like not to fuck, but like if the occasion arose.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, how weird. But yeah, the plane, and you're right about that. When they get in the plane or jet or whatever it is, right? It's the VTOL. They get in there, and he talks a lot about G forces and how he maxed out G forces when he borrowed an F1 car one time and like had to drive it to some escape or something like that.
Right.
And he's only been able to pull like, what do you say, 5 Gs or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
it was an extremely high number of G forces.
Yeah, it made me think, like, I don't think that's humanly possible, but yeah, I'm sure this author did his research and looked that up.
People start to like people start passing out at like 3.
Yeah, yeah. And the way he was mentioning it, though, so after they take off, they do like some pretty serious G's, but then Alpha and Beta start chasing them, right? And they're doing some Matrix like flying type shit, right? Where who knows where they're coming from, but they're like hurtling through the air like towards the ground, and they're able to stop themselves and things like this. Yeah. So but the VTOL, Bubbles is in control, right? Driving this thing and going crazy with it. Everyone is passed out except for Jonas and puking and passing out. And they continue to do these crazy maneuvers at like, I think he said like up to 8 Gs or something like that. And I thought, could people really survive that being unconscious and like just there's no way.
Oh,
and there's puke everywhere and horrible.
We watched The Expanse. That's how Alex died. Too many G forces.
There you go.
He had a brain aneurysm. But there was a quote from this sequence that I wrote down because I was like, how fucking dare you write this? And it was when Jonas said to himself, I just need to remember that I'm good at this. And I was like, are you? Because you do a lot of telling us how good you are, but we never actually see you be good at anything.
Yeah. There's a lot of Dumbo vibes, right? Where he knows he can do it, but he just needs to tell himself.
Just needs to trust his heart.
Yeah. That's right.
I also wrote down another quote because it might be one of the dumbest constructed sentences that I've seen in a while. And I've read Kingdom of the Wicked. It is, I smiled despite the G-force. To who? Everyone else has passed out.
To Bubbles.
Yeah.
She's paying attention to other things.
She always knows everything, and she always sees everything.
But yeah, there's a lot of puke, and I wrote down, haha, isn't puke funny? Because they really lean into, isn't puke funny?
Yep. Yeah. So once they land, right, and they have to, I think they're forced to land because Alpha and Beta like somehow damage the ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get like swatted out of the sky like telekinetically. I think.
Yeah. So they have to land, and then they land in like in the Rocky Mountains or something like that, right? So mountainous backdrop, like around a lake and stuff. And that's where everything just turns into like a straight up Dragon Ball cartoon. And it gets absolutely insane.
Yeah, I think before this like meeting that they have with Alpha and Beta, Maddie goes into Jonas's mind again, and she's like, we have to help you remember everything about unlocking your true powers now in 5 minutes. Otherwise, all of us are probably going to die.
Well, they have this dumb like powwow where everybody's just kind of like milling around inside the VTOL. And Jonas is like, well, I'm off to go die now, so it's been great, everybody. And another quote that I had to write down because I, again, couldn't believe the audacity was when Bubbles said, she said this to Maddie, if I ever get a body, you better be ready to knock a threesome.
That's right. So it reveals that Bubbles Bubbles may not have feelings, but she still wants to have sex with Jonas.
And
Of
who
course.
wouldn't?
Yeah.
Apparently,
Even if someone else has to be there, it's it's got to happen.
even
Worth it for the
even
experience,
an
Yep.
AI
the honor.
that doesn't have has no concept of sexual attraction, and she's like, absolutely, I would.
She's like, you better be ready for it.
Yeah, because it's happening whether you like it or not.
I also, while they were doing their little like pep talks to each other, where he's like, if I don't come back, I just want you to know that it's been an honor. And I wrote down, this seems a bit early for the climax, which probably means that we're setting up for 1,000 chapters of wrap up. And I was so
Yeah, there was a lot of wrap up. Well, I mean, the main chat. Well, we'll get to that. That was my favorite part. The last couple of chapters. Oh man, but yeah, during this battle that they have in the mountains, right? It's like so who was it? Alpha has like just superior telekinetic ability, parts the lake so they can meet and meet each other and like have a conversation or whatever.
yeah.
But actually, we should back up because that's when. Wait a minute.
Wasn't
I can't remember if it's
Hood drops a
is
bunch of satellites on him.
Hood drops a bunch of satellites on him. That's right. But before that, I think they're in the. I can't remember if it's when he's under the water because he ends up under the water, or if it's when they had the last time that Maddie helped him remember. But that's when he has the final dream about his parents.
It's
Right.
when
It
he's
happens
underwater.
after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's when he's
After
underwater.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because
So
he has. It's so stupid. We'll get to it, but I was like, I can't believe this.
yeah, it happens.
Yeah, but when he has to go back into his subconscious before he even goes out to like face them, and he imagines his subconscious as like Moses parting the Red Sea, and there's these giant walls of water, and
Yeah.
he has a little like heart to heart with his child self, where he
Yeah.
finds out that he was just like a joyful child murderer as a
Yeah.
kid. Like he loved murder, and he's like, we can't remember these things because we were fundamentally evil, and if we do, you can't be the person you are today.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't learn anything. He doesn't unlock any
Yeah.
new powers that they think the success of this battle hinges on. He just has a talk with his child self, and then he comes out of it basically. And
Yeah. Very weird. He purposely goes into his own mind to find out, like, all right, time to unlock the rest of that skill tree. You know what I mean? And then his child version of himself basically goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. For the build you're running, you don't want that stuff. Trust me. This stuff is not for you. Like, the build you've got is great. You just need to level up a bit more. Like, you're just gonna clutter your hotbar with this shit.
yeah.
Good way to
And then
put it,
he's
yeah.
like, you're right. Thanks.
Yeah, and then he comes out of his subconscious. And then I think he comes face to face with Alpha and Beta.
Yeah, and then
Yep.
they start telling him, like, oh, the people you thought were your parents aren't your parents. We're your real parents. And then I was like, he believes everything they say.
Well, they're disguised as the
Yeah.
parents who raised him. So
Oh,
like
that's right. I
they're
forgot about that.
they're on like the other side of this big ass lake. They part it the way that Jonas's like mind's eye is set up, and he describes Alpha's stance as sexual with her hip jutting out. And then
Right.
she's like, Jonas, you can't kill me. I'm your mother. And he's like, no, you're not. You're not my real mom. And they just
My
have
real
this like,
mom
you're,
is sexier than you.
yeah. They just have this "you're not my real mom" argument, and he calls them cartoon characters, and they're basically trying to convince him that like they are his parents. They are also Alpha and Beta because nobody's ever seen their faces.
Right.
And I think that's when, because Jonas is just trying to distract them long enough for Joshua to do something, to like whatever he's gonna do.
Yep. And then it happens, right, where the satellites come crashing down after they reveal their real, or this is before they reveal their real faces, right? Because once the satellites start coming down, Alpha's holding him off, and then he's, they convince Jonas to help him and to save him. And then he protects them from the rest of the satellites or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that's when they reveal their true faces, and he realizes they're not his parents. And then that's when they actually fight.
Yeah, and that's when they absolutely dunk on him.
Yep.
Like it's a massacre. They give him a Superman punch so hard he like goes down into the ocean, and then he just stays down. Like, well, that's not so good.
Yep.
Right.
And that's when he has the big reveal that we've all been waiting for. Well, I mean, as I was reading this, I didn't expect a reveal like this. I wasn't expecting that's why he is. And then but I got it, and I was like, oh, that's the dumbest thing they could have done.
I hate it.
So Jonas is down in the water, and he starts dreaming. He goes back to the beach where he was taken, and his grandma, Yaya, is there, and she says, oh boy, isn't it crazy? You have such weird experiences, but it's because you're not human. And he's like, what? So I'm an alien? And then she's like, oh no, stupid. You're a Titan. You know, from Greek mythology, the before gods. And he takes it pretty well. He's like, oh,
yeah,
cool.
He's a little taken back, but he's like, oh,
dope.
That's why I'm so awesome.
What truly fucking baffled me about this part was this whole Titan mythology. He's like, okay, so your mom was Phoebe, your dad was Koios, two Titans who did exist. She's the Titan of, I think, emotional thought. He's the Titan of rational thought. And they were like a couple, but we don't know a ton about the Titans. But this whole fucking fixation on being son of the North Star, that's not a thing that exists in Greek mythology besides like Calliope, or no, Callisto, like who was the virgin who Zeus went after, and then she got turned into a bear and then killed by her son. But they keep bringing in this North Star mythology, and there's literally nothing to connect it to this whole Titan origin story. And I was furious. All he had to do was the bare minimum of research, and he was like, nope, I'm not gonna.
Well, see, I don't know anything about all the Greek mythology, so I was in. Well, he got me. He got me with it.
The reason that we don't know anything about the Titans is because the pantheon, like Zeus, Ares, all the famous Greek gods, killed them all. And the ones they didn't kill, they threw in prison forever. So we don't know anything about it because they got dumped on.
Well, they were in prison forever, but these two escaped. And they mentioned their brother and sister, so that was another thing. But they escaped and were able to deliver their child to the world. Right.
Yeah, the Titans mostly just represent like an archaic pantheon and serve to like create the origin stories of a lot of like the Greek gods and goddesses that we know about. Like they're either like part of their lineage, or they gave birth to some of the more like primordial gods and goddesses like Circe and like Hecate and like all of the not really like pantheon deities, but like other older kind of as powerful ones. but really they only serve to like fuel the narrative of the Greek gods
Right.
taking over.
The fact that he decided to use Titans instead of, Greek gods or demigods like Hercules was a demigod. And he was practically indestructible. The only reason I think that he used Titans as like you're descended from two Titans who had a child is because he thought that what's better than gods is Titans. Like, no, they weren't better. They got fucking smoked.
Yeah, but not in his version, because in his version, these two got out of Tartarus and like
Somehow.
Yeah.
we'll never find out how.
Also, let's circle back to what I said before. And now that we know that Jonas and his two parents are Titans, let's go back to so they became assassins.
Well, okay, so I think like the parents that raised him, in my mind, I think the only way it works is if they were assassins instructed by the Titans to raise him as an assassin.
You're giving him way too much credit.
No, but I think that's true, right? Because there was the parents that raised him, the assassin parents, they knew that he was a Titan, right? So
Yeah.
the Titans they did some sort of warm handoff, right? Or they did, because then I'm trying to remember that the people who kidnapped him, Alpha and Beta, assassinated Yahya and took him from the beach, right? And so they stole him, and then the Titan parents contracted the assassin parents to take him and look over him, right? So they knew.
So his assassin parents, the ones who raised him, are not the same parents as his Titan parents.
No.
They
were
misinterpreted the whole end of the book.
Yeah, they're different. They're different because he did say that the Titan parents ended up going back, right? They ended up going back wherever they were imprisoned because they
wanted him like raised out of the influence
why would you
of
go
being
back?
Titan. Well, I don't think they went back to prison. I think they went into hiding.
Yeah, maybe that was it. But they went into some other sort of reclusive whatever. They went away. They were not out anymore.
Yeah. And then I think, yeah. Then we find out like the sword of Mars is really a god-forged weapon for godly boys.
So it's truly,
And when he astral projects, the sword astral projects with him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That was pretty sick.
Boo!
I think that's pretty cool.
It
like astral projects with him, and it like has special powers.
This is where I got
cool.
irritated, right? Because Sword of Mars. Mars is the Roman god of. Romans were around long after the Greeks. Definitely long after the Titans. So what are you talking about, dude?
There's a sentence that made me so mad where he talks about the origin of the sword. He says, the sword was forged by the North Star, son of the cosmos, stolen by the Olympian god of war. What? That's not a story. That's the North Star was a poor woman pursued by Zeus, who Hera jealously turned into a bear after Zeus fucked her and she had a son. And then she was murdered by her son as a bear. She's not going off forging godly weapons after that. Leave her alone. And then who's the son of the cosmos? We don't get any explanation about that. And then the Olympian god? Wrong, because Mars is not an Olympian god. Anyways,
he's
like,
Roman.
It's awful.
The Romans just took the Greek pantheon and were like, we love that you laid out a template for us, but these names have gotta go.
Yeah.
They just named everybody after the planets in the solar system. Or what we would eventually name the planets.
Yeah. Seems like a good idea to me. But I mean, you can't. The details, are a little bit fuzzy, and
It's
just like the rest of the
artistic
story.
license by someone who has no business. I can appreciate artistic license if you do the research to know what you're changing.
Yeah,
But
like
this guy
Madeline
looks
Miller.
like he's like. It feels like he went to Wikipedia and just kind of had a glance around.
Look, he writes a
I
book
don't
every
even
month.
think he
He doesn't
did
have time
that.
for that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
I don't even think he went to Wikipedia, because if he did, that sentence probably wouldn't exist. I hope.
He probably has a friend who's really big into like Greek mythology and just called him up and it's like, "Hey, is there a blacksmith in the lore?" Okay, got it.
They didn't even include him. He's not in it. Like, there's no.
Listen,
He probably got all his lore from the old God of War games.
Or a unit he did in grade 7 about ancient history, like we all did, and never double check.
Yep.
Listen, I gotta give credit where credit's due. Hephaestus is hard to spell.
It is. It is. That's true.
But anyway, once Jonas finds out that he's a Titan, and basically just goes, "Cool, this explains everything. It explains why I'm so hot. It explains why I'm so dope. It explains why I've got all this money." He like Superman punches out of the lake. And then instead of continuing to do a super cool Superman like flying pose, he just stands like fucking plank straight and floats across the water like a vampire. And I was like,
Yeah, he does.
You really undercut every cool thing you had going for you, dude.
Yeah.
Like one of Dracula's brides.
Yeah, floating across the floor.
That was a shame.
And then they fight.
They fight, and they do their big powerful back and forth of everything, and it really is like an anime battle, right? But then it ends weird, right? So they're doing this fight, and he's like distracting Alpha, and Alpha's like the super strongest whatever, and then a shot rings out, right? And he gets sniped from the mountaintop.
Yeah.
And so the biggest, most powerful telekinetic guy grown in a lab just gets sniped.
Yeah, he just gets blown away.
He just gets shot.
I think Jonas also stabs him with the sword of Mars as he's astral projecting.
Oh, you're right. He also does that.
And he turns to ash.
Yep. He turns to ash.
But that's how Beta dies. She gets shot through with a sniper rifle.
Oh, was it Beta that got shot? And
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
That might have been it.
Yeah, it was the lady that got shot. And when she got shot, Alpha was like, "Oh no!" And that's how he ended up getting stabbed.
My bride!
And then he got stabbed by the astral projection sword.
Also, more Avett Brothers references.
Yeah, it's their version of the face-off hand thing, is like quoting Avett Brothers lyrics to each other.
That's exactly what it is. They just like say Avett Brothers, not even lyrics. They just say Avett Brothers songs titles to each other, and they're like, "Oh, I knew it was you."
Yep.
But then they like,
oh man,
after this battle, there's not much. Like, there's no like, "Oh man, that was intense. I need a breather." They're like, "Anyway, that's done. Time to have a nice coconut drink."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they go to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, Bubbles makes another reference about wanting to have a threesome with Matt and Jonas.
Of course.
Right. Yeah. I made a note here that this has been stuck in my craw for not only the whole book, but ever since I finished it. But my note is, now that we know that Jonas is a Titan, it's even more embarrassing that his whole family is woefully obsessed with the Avett brothers.
Do you think Titans should have better taste in music?
Yeah, they should. They've experienced all of it.
Well,
They
maybe
have-
that just goes to show you that the Avett Brothers are the pinnacle of music,
Wow.
throughout time.
Can't believe you ever even let that slip out of your mouth.
I'm just
Even-
deducing,
Even as a joke, Fulltor.
Well, it's maybe making me second guess my opinion. Maybe I need to go back and listen to him again.
Jim Croce's rolling in his
Won't do
grave.
it.
It's terrible.
But like the battle's over, and then they just go to like this private island.
Not just any private island, but
A
Epstein's
private island.
island.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Like, why?
yeah, that's exactly who. Because every time they were like, "Oh, you know who this island was owned by, right?" And Jonas would go, "No, don't tell me."
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd literally be like, la, 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 la. Like, I
So-
don't want to know.
I paused it and I was like, "Who owns a private island? And who would Jonas not want to know about?" Only the biggest child sex trafficker in history.
And I think
Yeah.
they mention his name, don't they?
Yeah, they do mention his name at some point, but they don't directly make the connection.
No, that would be.
But yeah, it's implied.
It would be flying much too close to the sun if he did that.
But even still, it's like it wasn't. They were making it a secret.
Yeah.
But also, why would you want to hang out there?
Yeah, exactly.
Even as like a post-battle refuge, like, oh, this was just close.
Yeah. I love hanging out at a
They-
place.
like
where
they
people
really
are
just put their
traumatized.
they
Yeah.
really put their feet up at this criminal's house.
Yeah.
But not only that, it's a known location. I mean, like
Everybody knows
there's
where it is.
investigations there. Like,
yeah.
There's still probably FBI people there.
yeah, exactly. But that's where they kick their
But it's
feet up and everything. No one's gonna find them. That's where they're hiding out from now on.
Right.
And again, Jonas's relationship with his parents is suspect. Because the way that they interact with each other implies a very inappropriate relationship.
The way that they interact with each other.
Yeah, like it's way. I don't know how you guys were with your parents, but they were way too fucking touchy-feely. Like hugging each other, kissing each other. No.
I like to think that's closer to how families were compared to my own, but I don't understand
Yeah,
affection in
That's
that
not
way.
my experience.
I mean, I hug my parents, but my mom doesn't make sex jokes to me. Like,
Yeah, that's a good point. Mine, yeah. I feel like that's a unspoken, well-established barrier between parent and offspring.
Yeah, agree. Because his mom does make a sex joke directly at him, right?
Like
about
Yeah.
rapid fire.
yeah, yep, about
yeah.
him and Maddie like spending too much time together or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, everybody on the island heard you guys blasting each other's backs out." And then, but it wasn't like, come on, no, everybody heard you guys. They were like, "Everybody heard you."
Yeah. Yeah.
Super weird. And wasn't his
weird.
dad checking out Maddie like at the end? He was hiding in a tree, right? To spy
He
on her.
like, he like drops
Yeah.
down fucking like Robert Pattinson
Yeah,
style
like
in Goblet
Edward
of
in
Fire.
Twilight, dropping
Yeah.
down from a tree, and he's like,
He's
"Whoa,
just like,
how did you do that? I didn't sense you going up that tree." And he's like, "That's because I've been here for 3 days."
by the way, your girlfriend's smoking on. Dad.
Please. And
Yeah,
then they
that
were
was
like,
wild.
"Anyway, we're out of here."
Yeah, we got to go do our assassin work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Enough
they're
sleep,
like, we're
enough
gonna go
rest.
fuck in an RV for days later, son.
Oh yeah, they did say that. Weird.
Don't you wish you could come with us? Oh,
And then also when they get to the island, of course, conveniently, Mr. Hood and Heather are just super tight at that point. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
or
Weird how that
interested
worked
at
out.
least.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's pairing off, and there's a moment where, like when they were talking about Hood and Maddie, or not Maddie, Heather, sort of pairing off, and Maddie is, quote, in the same bikini that my subconscious clothed her in,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
end quote.
Oh boy.
Orange, his favorite color.
Right
Yeah.
underneath that, I wrote, ew, fuck. But I was like, hey, where's Agent Fast? She just kind of disappeared from the story.
She did, but she comes back in the
Yes.
epilogue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where she's like, don't get into any trouble, mister.
Yeah, but she did kind of disappear because she was at the lake.
Yeah, she was
But
in the
after that,
plane.
she was just
And
that was
then
it.
she just wasn't at the island.
Because she was the one who was like, was it a personal record for me vis-a-vis G-Force? And she's like,
Exactly.
I once reached 9. And they had like hit
I was
8 or
safety
something
rated
like
for 45 G's. My skin came out the other side.
that.
Yeah, that's right. She was.
And that's, I
yeah.
think, the last we hear of her.
Yeah.
Until
Yep.
the epilogue.
Yep.
There's another quote that I put in, like a very emphasized, probably going to be reversed camera. My stop is very emphasized. Because the quote was, we have a lot of sex, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I was like, stop! That's enough!
Oh, yeah, that's a literal quote.
Yeah, it was like
I
he was.
blocked that out.
Yeah, he was implying it so hard, and then just had to
Like,
throw
as
it out
if
there.
we
and,
hadn't
like,
figured it out yet.
yeah, it's like it's the punchline, but completely unnecessary, and it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Didn't get a laugh.
No.
It fell extremely flat.
I was squeezed dry of laughs by the treehouse. And that was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I feel you on that one.
But the epilogue is almost unworthy of the title. Because it's literally just Agent Fast going, stay out of trouble, you son of a bitch, or I'll be back.
Yeah.
And
Well, the
some
whole thing with-
kids.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
kid
and
thing
then
was weird. And
don't
Bubbles,
understand the
he had
kid.
to do something with Bubbles, and I'm still not sure I could completely understand it because Bubbles seems to be completely omniscient. So I don't get it.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So, as part of wow. Part of Jonas realizing his Titan powers is that he can just communicate with Bubbles,
That's right.
however, in his brain forever.
Mhm.
And she is in the process of being localized into a body so that she can't just be omniscient all the time. And in the process of that, the body comes out. Oh my God. She appears in her body and she's like trying to nail the non-threatening female best friend. And he describes her as slightly overweight, but in a curvy way. And I wanted to die. And then Bubbles vanishes and Jockey shows up with 2 strangers. And that's how the fucking book ends.
Right.
But that made me so mad.
Yeah, it's like she finally got her body, but to be clear, she's not the hot one. So
Yeah.
it was very awkward.
And he's talking to little kids, and they have like this conversation about like code names. They're like, yeah, we made code names for ourselves. I'm
Demon Dog.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Demon Dog was one, and then the other one was like Laser Chicken.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And then he was like, "Oh, what's your name, mister?" And he goes, "Call me Mind Bullet." And they're like,
Yep.
"Wow, that's cool." And I'm like, "No, it's not cool. Don't say that. Don't write that down. It's not cool. Mind
It's
Bullet
cool for little kids.
Yeah, that's perhaps the most unbelievable thing in this book are kids thinking anything an adult says is cool. And
Well,
like
yeah,
looking up,
true.
they'd be like, that's fucking dumb
Yeah.
later. And then they'd say something super scathing that cuts you to your core.
But I did enjoy that Bush Jockey is back.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't actually die.
I don't remember what he said, but I like to think it was.
It was something ridiculous.
I bet you thought I was dead.
Literally something exactly like
Yeah.
that.
And then my final note of this delightful journey is thank fuck this is over.
Yeah.
Because this book was wild. And I'm
It was
so glad you picked it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm glad you you had this on the list because it, you know, it's nothing. It's not anything like any book that I've ever read before.
No?
And it's no, it was just so much further out, and it didn't make any sense, and yet I think I enjoyed it a little bit reading through it, and even though it was so ridiculous.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. I just loved making fun of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I loved making fun of it in my notes as I was listening to it. I loved making fun of it in this very discussion.
Mhm.
It's definitely a book that would be less enjoyable if other people didn't read it and you didn't get to talk about it with them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
If I just read this by myself, I would be trying to tell people, you got to read this book, Mind Bullet, so we could talk shit about it. So
Yeah.
And they'd be like, why would I want to read something that's not good?
Mhm.
That's half the fun, my friend.
Exactly. It was worth the journey. But yeah, I'm interested to find out how this whole universe comes together, but I'm definitely not going to try and find out.
Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
right choice.
Mhm.
Like, it's one of those things where it's like, good luck in your endeavors, my friend.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's very
I
cool
was,
that
I
you're
was
making
widely successful.
you're very cool that you're making a Marvel Cinematic Universe in your books, but I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. Like I said, it'd be nice to hear the synopsis, 10 years from now. And be like, oh, yeah, I read one of those books.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
It was a journey.
We did it. We finished the book, you guys.
Yeah.
We made it.
That was a good one. That was a good one. Well, thanks for the journey and the recommendation. I think that was it was definitely fun.
It
If
was
nothing
a
else.
absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to read another book again, Fulltor, you let us know. And
All right.
we'll do it in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
I might have to because yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I said, I don't read books. This is the first this is the first book that I read that I wasn't narrating in a very long time.
That's why we started this podcast, because we weren't reading the books that we wanted to. Like, we weren't reading the amount of books that we wanted to read.
Yeah.
So we're like, what if we just forced ourselves to do it?
Yeah.
There you go. Set a deadline and get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. But it was worth it. It was worth the journey.
Yes.
And I think I'm a better person for it.
Even when the book is bad, talking about it is always worth it, because you can just relentlessly talk shit.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Fulltor, for joining us.
Thank
And,
you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
I'm pretty sure everybody who is watching right now knows who you are. But for when this goes up on YouTube, plug yourself.
I guess you could find me on Twitch at Fulltor, twitch.tv/Fulltor. I guess that's it. That's the most common place. Or YouTube at my channel's B Fulltor on YouTube. That's about it. Thanks for having me. This has been great.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. And hopefully you'll come and do it again sometime.
Yeah, I think we could definitely arrange that. I'd be interested.
But
Excellent.
2 weeks from now, we start our new book.
Mhm.
What is it called? Six of Crows?
Six of Crows. It takes place in the Grisha verse established by Lee Bardugo. It is not a sequel to the Shadow and Bone trilogy, but it does take place chronologically after in another city called Ketterdam. So if you've watched the show, the characters that are not like Alina and her posse. It's like Kaz, Inej, and Jesper, I think, are the characters. It's about them and a heist that they are planning to pull off.
Interesting.
Can't wait.
It's gonna be a journey.
It's gonna be great. All right, everybody. Thanks for everybody who stopped in to watch on Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks. Follow, subscribe, please. I really need those 100 subs so I can have a custom URL, please. But thanks, everybody. We're done. We're out of here. We'll see you.
All right, thanks.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Indeed.
Have a good night.
Good night.